Good morning. Good afternoon. And good evening. Oh my God, it is hot. Boy, I think I'm going to need a fan in here. How are we doing today? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, guys. Today, first of all, who even watched All Out yesterday? Do you like... Oh my God, I need a fan because I'm already hot. But good morning, everyone. What is up? Brian Danielson did appear. Absolutely. What was your take on that? I'm still hyped. I'm not even gonna lie. Like, I am so hyped still, even as the day after. I'm like, oh my God, full of energy right now. Guys, I swear to you, like, last night was so lit. The thing is, like, Bray hasn't officially left WWE. It was incredible. What was your favorite part of last night? I would say mine, but we're going to go into it. I have some friends joining me today, and we're going to have a conversation about the major event last night that took place, also known as All Out. It was incredible. Oh my God, like, the hype is so real, guys. I am so excited to bring on my guests today to go into it, to discuss what really went down yesterday. I do have Starbucks. I'm gonna go and get it. One sec. Good morning. How you doing, James? Is it true that CM Punk has returned? Absolutely, that is true. Not only did CM Punk make his return to the ring last night, we also had the likes of Adam Cole. I don't know if you're aware of him. He's actually a Twitch streamer too. Show up, which was a major surprise for me, because when I thought that Bryan Danielson, this is going to take some time for me to get used to, honestly. Bryan Danielson, I have to tell myself, Bryan Danielson, one sec, my Starbucks is here. Thank you. Bye-bye. Right, so let me just get what is good. GP, I got Shansko to send you the link. One sec. Right, I am good to go. I do have my coffee right here. So, guys, today I am joined by a special guest panel. Oh my God, I am so excited for this. I am so hyped. You know how much I love wrestling. I have been ride or die for WWE. Make no mistakes, this was my first ever AEW pay-per-view. And I mean, we're going to go into it. I am going to tell you exactly how I felt watching it. Bear in mind, the time zone that I am in, it was live till 5 a.m. and I was literally on the edge of my seat until 5 a.m. I did not get tired. I was so engaged in the matches. It was truly mind-blowing for me. God is Jericho. Dude, I felt like the Jericho one was a bit underwhelming for me, but we are going to go into that when my special guests join us. We're going to go through every single match of the night and think what the guests think, and I'll tell you what I think. It is exciting. I am so excited. Honestly, guys. So yeah, who is the guest? I have a few guests joining me, and you will see the entire cast of my guest panel today is going to be lit. We're going to go into it. We're going to get nitty and gritty and talk everything AEW. Bear in mind, this was my first AEW pay-per-view experience, and my God, was I so engaged. I'm still in shock. Like, it was incredible. It was truly incredible. The guests are making their way onto the panel. This is so exciting. Oh my God. So first of all, I am going to introduce to you guys, he is the owner of the largest Discord AEW server. That's right. And let me tell you, it was so hype on his server last night. I am going to introduce you guys to Brains.
What?
Welcome, Brains. How are you doing? Why am I shouting? Oh my God. We have Dre in the building. He was a WWE announcer for 2 years, guys. He has worked in the wrestling industry. He is a lifelong wrestling fan. Let me introduce you guys to Beyondre. He also streams on Twitch and has his very own wrestling streams that you can check out. We have Dre in the building. What's up, Dre?
What's going on? I don't know what's going on with my camera this morning. It should be working, but it's just giving me issues. It doesn't like working at 7 in the morning.
Oh, well, I really appreciate you being here at this time. It is truly early for you. So we have Nerfed Mike, who is a lifelong wrestling fan, and he's also a Twitch streamer. Let me introduce you guys to Nerfed Mike.
Hey, how you doing? How you doing? First off, let me apologize for the fact that you can see my VR catwalk here. Normally, I have my camera cropped, but for some reason, I can't do it on here. So you have to put up with my VR catwalk.
Yeah.
Apologies.
I had the same problem.
That's fine. So we are waiting for a few more guests to arrive. But anyways, guys, what did you think of last night?
Whew. It was pretty awesome, I gotta say.
Yeah, it was phenomenal. I mean, I was kind of expecting a good show anyway, but after that, it took me about an hour and a half to get to sleep after that. And as you can probably tell, I'm in the UK, so it was like 5 a.m. when it finished my time. But yeah, it was nuts.
I thought it was probably one of the best wrestling pay-per-views in the last, we'll even go 5 years. I mean, even with everything AEW has done with all of their previous pay-per-views, it has far surpassed and exceeded anything WWE has put out in the last 5 years.
I agree.
Yeah.
100% agree.
I mean, it's AEW. They're going to give you wrestling versus just a lot of the same spots in every match.
Well, I think that's the biggest thing for me is that WWE hasn't been a professional wrestling company in about 10 years. It's about sports entertainment, and it's about pleasing the investors, and it's about doing all the things, taking away from what the actual core thing is of your product. Because back in 1985, WWF stood for World Wrestling Federation. Now WWE, they should change their name again to WSEE because it's now World Sports Entertainment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that.
Yes, right. Joining us, we have the beautiful Silver Queen. She is an indie wrestler. Guys, beware. We're going to see her on the big screen hopefully very soon. And I am excited for her to be joining us today. Shout out to Ivy Roman. Welcome.
Hey, good morning.
What's up?
Howdy.
Wow.
Love you guys.
Well, good morning. I feel very underdressed now without having any kind of like face makeup or something on.
You know,
Oh, this is the first time I've done it on a stream. Just to have fun.
Now I'm kind of glad my camera is black because I don't think I could hold up to that.
Yeah, no, I just put eyeshadow on my face. I was like, let's go there. I'm still hype. I don't know about you guys, but I am still hype from last night.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh,
It was amazing. It was
Your mic is echoing a little bit, Ivy.
Hold on. Let me try something. Hold
No,
on.
you're perfect now. You got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just
Let's.
started
Wow. So is
talking.
it? Oh, now your camera's okay. Now you're back. You're back. Okay, perfect. Now you're here. So, guys, I don't know about you guys, but yesterday my day started by counting down the hours. This was my first ever AEW event. I don't watch AEW. I'll be honest. I've been so loyal to WWE, the brands, and so I was like, nah, I can't really be, messing with AEW. I'm gonna introduce Danny. By the way, he is here. We have the lifelong wrestling fan. He also has a server on Discord, a flat earth. He's a flat earth lifelong wrestling fan. We have Danny in the building. What's good?
What's up, everybody?
Hey, buddy.
What's up?
Good morning.
Yeah, I figured I see you guys all dressed up. I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to put on a cape.
It works. No, I love it. So let's go right into it. We do have one more person joining us, but I'm not sure where they are. So they'll just come in, when they come along. So I guess we'll start from the beginning of the night. Do you have any comments on the Orange Cassidy, or are we not going into the pre-show?
That's the only thing I didn't see.
I
okay.
quite like the pre-show. I mean, for what I saw, I thought it was a good way to hype up the crowd. I mean, if you get everyone loves Orange Cassidy anyway. Well, I say everyone. The AEW fan base certainly loves Orange Cassidy. So having him come in got the crowd going. But then when Jungle Boy's music hits and everyone's just like that, just singing along, it's a great way to start the show. And it was a solid match. Like the ref completely lost control of it from the start. I couldn't tell who was supposed to be the legal wrestler or not. But yeah, I think it did exactly what it needed to do. It woke the crowd up.
Was it the same referee that kept butting his way into the matches throughout the night? Was it the new referee?
I think it was actually, yeah. I can't remember exactly who it was.
Okay. Yeah, see, my buddy pointed out, he's like, is that a new referee? And I'm like, oh, I didn't even notice that. And lo and behold, 2 seconds later, he's interrupting in the matches, causing what was the one match where he caused the championship to
Eddie Kingston and Miro, yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, I'm excited you have me on, Conspiracy Queen. I'm glad you put this all together. We all haven't got much sleep. We're all pretty pumped up and hyped up, but it's 9 o'clock in the morning for me right now. But I just want to say thanks for having me on. Even though it felt like a job, I had to wake up early. Now I'm good. I'm better now. I got my coffee.
Man.
Thank you.
Welcome to wrestling.
It's cool just to talk with other schmarks, wrestling fans.
Right?
I'm happy you guys are here. You guys know what you're talking about. You're in the wrestling business. You know the industry. So I'm grateful. Thank you.
Yeah, it's just one of those beautiful things. Just watching community come together. It doesn't matter how many miles we have from one another. Wrestling unites this beautiful community where we're able to not only entertain but just talk wrestling. And just speaking to you guys this past week has been the highlight of my week. You all know exactly what you're talking about. You have a beautiful perspective on the business, and I'm just honored to be here. So thank you for having me.
It's an honor to have you all here, honestly. And I love talking about wrestling. So I'm in my element right now. It's my favorite thing in the world. Last night was mind-blowing for me. It was my first AEW experience, and my God, they did not disappoint.
Well, that's what I tell people is that, I do. If you watch WWE pay-per-views, you know what those are like. But if you watch an AEW, it's, for me, having grown up watching WCW, NWA, stuff like that, it really is a throwback in many respects. However, you also get, the high flying young bucks. It's a multi-generational type of
It,
show.
it's an indie show on steroids, and I don't mean that as an insult at all, because indie wrestling really is where the heart and soul of this industry lies. It's where, forget about the NXT developmental and forget about all of that. It's really where, the true developmental system is in professional wrestling. And it's the people, the guys and the girls that work their local territory, then they go and expand out to another town, then they go work in Japan, then they get an opportunity in Mexico and in Puerto Rico. WWE has pretty much homogenized the entire developmental system to the point where it has lost any flavor of any independent spirit that it has, and it's scary to see what's going to happen with NXT in the future. And I made the thought occurred to me last night after watching, all the debuts, which we'll talk about later. But it seems to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, but WWE has essentially turned into AEW developmental.
Yeah, I see what you're saying with that, and I mean, from the debuts that came through, you hear a lot of people, especially like people that diehard WWE fans, and there's a lot of people that are diehard WWE fans because it was for a while, certainly mainstream wise, the only thing you could really watch. But a lot of the times you do hear people going, "Oh well, AEW, they're just taking ex-WWE." But if you think about the fact that for a while WWE hired everyone with the intention that no one else can have them, they're like, "I'm just going to hire every wrestler in the world. Then there's no other competition." This day and age, it's almost impossible not to have someone that was ex-WWE at some point because almost everyone has been. But yeah, I'm looking at some of the wrestlers that have come from WWE to AEW, you could easily sit there and argue, say, yeah, it's almost like now WWE is a feeder for AEW.
Yeah. Well, one thing, about the indie talent, and you even hear, Tony Khan and different ones talk about how, they didn't have the exposure to the crowd sizes. They didn't have exposure to the cameras. The nice thing about somebody deciding to work for another company, they've had that exposure. They've had that training. They can now pass it on to these younger folks who haven't had that exposure.
Yeah, completely agree.
And that's the beauty. That's the beauty in the business. The beauty in the business is you want a competitor because it's going to push you to make your brand better. If you stay complacent, growth doesn't happen when you're complacent. So that competition, that competitiveness keeps you on your toes. And, I want to hear, the fans that first seen an AEW event. Queen, tell us, what was your feeling? What was your experience? What was your thought process last night? Because I was in the chat, but I have my best friend with me here.
Dude,
I'm dying to know what was your perspective on last night's show.
So I've been online, and I could say that even reading the AEW Reddit subreddit, so many people are on there saying, I have converted to AEW. I am now an AEW fan. I am leaving the WWE. Lifelong WWE fans like myself. If you go on the subreddit of AEW, you can see, and you could hear throughout the night, the announcer kept on saying, I know many of you, this is your first experience watching AEW. So I think they definitely drew in a whole new audience last night, and they kept on even reciting, if you're new here, if this is your first experience, welcome, this is the AEW. So I think for everyone whose first experience, including myself, it was definitely, I don't even have words, because so far throughout all the pay-per-views, WrestleMania night 1 was the highlight of the year for myself. Like, nothing topped that. Sasha Bianca, that was like, my favorite match of the year. Nothing has topped that. And then this came along, and this was the closest to Attitude Era. Like, this is my first experience watching AEW. I know a lot of people say that it's very similar to the closest to the Attitude Era, because there's no corniness. Like WWE is so corny these days. The dialogues that they come out with, I don't understand it at times, you know. I think they hired some Emmy writers, not people in the wrestling business, so they actually don't understand the dialogues that are required for wrestling. My experience was incredible. We have GP joining us right now, so I'm going to introduce him. So I am going to introduce him. We have, sorry, someone needs to use headphones or turn down their speaker. Someone said in chat, there's a feedback coming through.
Yeah, so somebody's got to mute their mic when everybody else is talking.
Okay, so we have CEO and owner of Gorilla Press, manager to Masha Slamovich, and as seen on AEW Dark and NWA's Empower, and partner to Thunder Ross's Pro Wrestling, Robert of Gorilla Press Wrestling. His camera's
loading.
It's loading. Where's Ivy?
I think Ivy was trying to fix her headsets. I think it was Ivy that was giving the echo.
Okay.
All you had to do, Ivy, was just mute yourself. You didn't have to leave. But
can I just say? Oh, sorry, go
on. Man, I wanted Thunder Rosa to win so badly last night. I was like, come on, you're gonna give it to Bird Lady right off the bat? I'm like, come on.
No, okay, let's go right from the beginning. Ivy can jump in and chime in when she does. First of all, what was your favorite intro music? Because first, I mean, for me, WWE intro music knocks out the park. Like, they're still really good at that. I think with time, maybe AEW will develop. But who's your favorite intro music?
Jericho. The fake Jericho entrance?
Oh, that was the MJF start.
Awesome.
That was great.
Yeah.
Oh, I just wanted to before I go in, I just wanted to say I didn't get your name, Glorious guy. Glorious.
Oh, sorry, me, Mike.
Okay, yeah, and Mask, Lucha.
Brains.
Brains.
Okay, what's up, man? I'm Dan. I just wanted to say to add to your point earlier, Glorious, because everyone's saying like, oh, all ex WWE is what AEW is now, but it's like no. I thought of it last night. They have Cody and the creative team have a mission that they're taking all of these ex WWE and they're doing what they should have done with them. They make it a point now to go, okay, well, you're taking all our trash. Go ahead and take all our trash. But in reality, we're turning your chicken shit into chicken salad, as they say in the business. And so it's just, I don't know, that takes me off when they say that. And it's like, no, they're just showing you how to create storylines the proper way with these wrestlers and how to utilize them.
The best example of that, Malachi Black at the moment. The way he's being used is phenomenal. I pop every time his entrance starts when he comes in. Like my hairs on my arms are standing up at the moment just thinking about it. The way that they're using him, and you sit there and you wish, I wish WWE did that, because think of some of the people he could have wrestled with if they were using him properly. But go back to your question, Queen. Best intro music. I think for me on the night, it was Lucha Brothers. They came out and I was like, oh, this is going to be cringeworthy. I'm not sure about this, because obviously the guys come out and they were doing the rapping and everything. But by the end of it, I'm singing, I'm going Zero Miedo, and I'm like, I'm really getting into it. And they walked in and went, wait, how long have I been singing? It's like 3 a.m. and my neighbors are like, who's this idiot singing for? But yeah, they were my favorite. I think with what you said about WWE, they still do good music, but since they got rid of CFOs, that's when it started to go downhill a little bit, because the music that they did was phenomenal. But yeah, they definitely last night, Lucha Brothers by far.
I love the Lucha Brothers entrance, man. That blew me. Just that I'm like, how do you not give them the titles after that? Fire entrance.
That was a hell of an entrance, but for me, it's got to be Baltimore with Tarzan Boy in the pre-show.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you hear the strands of that bass line popping, everybody's arms are swinging.
Yeah,
Marco's stunts bouncing around like an Energizer bunny on crack. It's it's a hell of a spectacle. I want to fly to an AEW show just so I can be an idiot in the crowd like that.
Mm-hmm. I'm exactly the same. I'm in the UK.
Well, so my thing is, the weird thing for me is that being in the business for 10 years, it killed my ability to watch wrestling as a fan. Yeah. I'm very analytic. I'm very critical about the product. Ivy, I can see you nodding your head. You understand, you know. Last night was the first time that I was actually able to watch a show as a fan, and I felt like it was 15 years old again. It was awesome.
I felt like I think this is really taking me back. I felt like I was 9 years old, braiding my cousin's hair and just watching wrestling. Like the best time. Like I literally, all the analyzing, some was still there because once you've been in the business, it's hard to kind of push that side off of you.
Yep.
But once you just got captivated in each match and you just got lost in the story and you're like, you're thinking you're calling what's going to happen next, but like you're wrong and you're like, oh my God, I'm wrong. Like, oh, this is crazy. So just that drive and that passion. My favorite match was the Casino Battle Royale. Just to see the women and the talent. And instead of having a male battle royal, just letting women shine. Like, I feel like that was such a statement. And I am so proud of every woman that stepped into that ring that night. It was phenomenal.
I will 100% agree. And I think what it did last night was it gave everybody who is bringing new eyes to the product, here's what our women division has to offer. Now, if they can figure out how to fix the division and make it more compelling on a weekly television product, then they're at that point, they turn into a complete company.
Well, in the last couple of weeks,
Exactly.
They've been making some moves on the show making some alignments between some of the women that weren't there before. Penelope and the Bunny. Now you got Anna Jay back with Ty, which before Anna Jay got hurt, they were, like best buds, and they're best buds in real life. So it's kind of even cooler. And then now you kind of see Cargill and Nyla. So they make subtle moves. They don't just usually say, oh, here it is, and that kind of thing. So you got to kind of watch week to week, and then you'll get it.
If you're not watching, you can't see the development. And I think it's really important for like new fans, not just AEW, but in wrestling, to actually take the time out to watch each show, because it's going to build the storyline that leads up to these pay-per-views.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I think with AEW, certainly from their start, the women's division, what they promised wasn't quite what they delivered to start with. But they're certainly, like you could see, as someone was saying earlier on, that they're starting to make the moves now to really kind of like to start pushing the women's division a bit more. And I'm genuinely excited for it. I really am, because they have so much talent in that women's division. The Battle Royale was, it's Battle Royal. It's always going to be a bit of a pain to have that match and not have some sort of niggling problems as it was going through. I think I spotted a few bits and pieces. I was like, I don't think that was supposed to happen. But what I really liked about it was that it advanced so many small storylines. Like, it wasn't just about the winner. It was about all these other little storylines. They're like, do you know what? We've got a women's division here that they have storylines. They're not just an afterthought for us. I'm not saying that other companies do that, because there are other companies out there that have brilliant women's divisions as well. But people started to think that's what AEW were doing. But they're starting to say, no, do you know what? We have these storylines. And then we have these little groups that are fighting in this battle royal. And I was really impressed by it. I really liked it.
You know, if I'm AEW, the first thing I'm doing is I'm trying to poach a booker from Shimmer, Shine, any of the all women's promotions, and putting them in charge of the women's division and say, go. If they could somehow poach David Finlay away from WWE, because during the women's revolution for the whole 6 months that actually lasted until they put that on the back burner, it was Dave Finlay that was involved in most of the producing of those matches. And that's really, I think, the one missing link is it's not what's being presented in the ring, it's the backstage part. And you really need someone with that experience, and not only with the experience, but that can generate the trust that those talents need to be able to produce those matches. And again, if they can do that, they're so close to being a complete company and close to being able to, you know, Vince McMahon says, oh, we don't view them as competition. BS. After last night, if the panic button has not been mashed over and over again in Titan Towers, then, you know, Vince has gone senile.
Which wouldn't surprise me, to be fair.
Yeah, breaking news. Vince McMahon joins AEW.
Oh, please no, please no.
It's all gone now.
I actually had a quick scenario that I talked about on one of the wrestling podcasts that I do on Thursday night. Is when Malachi Black came into AEW, I looked at that as the first nail in WWE's coffin. CM Punk, nail number 2. All the debuts last night, 3, 4, and 5. But the biggest nail in their coffin is when TNT finally says, you guys are ready for Monday night. If there is a reignition of the Monday Night Wars, I do not see Vince McMahon having the stamina or the desire to go through another one. I can almost envision a scenario where there's a serious bidding war to buy WWE, and TNT and Tony Khan hire Eric Bischoff to try to buy WWE.
What?
Wow. You really are fantasy booking this, huh?
Yeah,
that's the ultimate bring back, callback right there.
That is like sending the bat signal for wrestling. Like, that's crazy. I was waiting for one of you to say it. I just didn't know who was going to say it.
Oh, I'll say anything. If I don't piss off at least 10 people in one day, I haven't done my job.
Yeah, you're not doing a proper job.
Wow.
You haven't done that.
So let's go to the beginning of the night. Miro versus Eddie Kingston. Nerfed Mike, let's start with you. What did you think of this match?
I really liked it. I remember when Eddie Kingston came into AEW, I was like, I'm not really a massive fan. He's grown on me so much. And then to see him up against Miro, who he's another one that wasn't used properly in WWE. You know, he got himself over, and that was his biggest downfall there. You know, Rusev Day, wasn't it? And he was so over, and it's like, nah, I didn't give you that gimmick. It's not happening. You're like, oh, all right. But to see those two in a ring together, to use the common term, big beefy men slapping beef, you know, it would have been Vince's dream match. But they did really well. They told a good story of it. You know, Eddie spent the majority of the match focusing on Miro's neck, as he said he was going to do. There were a couple of times where I genuinely, because I thought from the start that Miro was going to keep that title, but there were one or two periods during the match where I was like, oh, I could be wrong here. And that doesn't happen very often. I'm not trying to be big-headed or anything, but normally, like, especially when you look at other promotions, they almost telegraph these things. It's kind of obvious what's going to happen, and you just watch it for the sake of watching it.
Yeah.
But I was watching it, and I was like, oh, I don't know, Eddie could take this. And I could see that belt on Eddie. It's down the line, I certainly could. I think Miro needs to hold it for a bit longer. I think the finish kind of sets it up for a continued feud, because it's not exactly a clean finish. Obviously, Miro's playing the heel, Eddie's playing the face, and I think the feud's going to continue. But all in all, and I was surprised that I went on as an opening match as well. I wasn't expecting that as an opening match, but I thought it was a very solid opening match, and I enjoyed it.
How about you, Danny? What did you think?
I'm Dan, right?
Yeah. Danny,
So-
Dad.
No, like Gloria said, Mike.
Yeah, Glorious is fine, but yeah.
Gloria said, I actually thought that Miro was going to squash him to be, but then I remember, I'm like, you know what? Kingston, he's gone on this jobber journey. And at first, I didn't really like him either when he debuted. And then he's grown. See, here's the thing. A lot of these guys in AEW, when they first came, I liked them. I thought I liked them. But then I'm like annoyed by Kingston. I'm annoyed now by the Young Bucks. I'm annoyed by Kenny Omega. But now, again, they all have won me back, which is rare. That's rare. Once I make my mind, I'm like, all right, I'm done with that. But then they won me back. But back to the Kingston match. He won. I thought he was a jobber, but he got me interested in the match, and he's great on the mic. And he showed some good wrestling skills, some nice, as they said, Japanese wrestling there. That I think he did a great job. It was a good opening match, and definitely keep the belt on Miro. Make that put some respect on that title.
How about you, Ivy? What did you think?
Oh my God. So from watching Eddie Kingston in the Indies, and also seeing him debut AEW, I've been cheering for him this entire time. The only thing that I love to see is Miro's development, just from where he's come from in his own professional career to where he is now. It's one of those things that reminds me how much I love this brand, because they give their talent the chance to create themselves. It's their own development. So their persona, their character is gonna go as far as they want it to. But to see the psychology develop with the pure the build up to that event, to that point where it's like, I'm finally gonna get your neck. I'm coming for your neck. And up until that point, it was like the psychology that kept you tuned into that entire match. Not one part I feel could have gone better, rather than Eddie going home with the title. But that's just my personal preference.
GP, are you here? He's been having technical issues the whole time. I guess we'll move on to. We went down this direction, right? So, Dre.
The cameras have moved slightly.
Yeah, I'm like so confused. What did you think, Dre?
No, I think it's the app.
So Kingston got me hooked with his promo. That was, I have to say, that was probably one of the best, most genuine promos I've seen cut in a while. And the thing about it, the promo with it is, I genuinely believed that Kingston had a chance to beat Miro. With Miro going over, I think it's good because it sets up the chase, which any champion needs. Any heel champion needs a good baby face to chase that title. And I don't see this being a super long-term booking feud. I could probably see this going through Full Gear. But I like the fact that they planted the seed that you now see the chinks in Miro's armor. You now know that he has a weakness. Eddie exposed it, and the next time they meet, that's going to be the Achilles heel, and it's going to give Eddie a monster pop when he finally goes over. But for the match itself, I thought there were parts where it seemed like it was plotting. It seemed like they lost, got off the same page a couple of times, but they were able to quickly adjust, get back into it. So it really didn't seem like that big of a deal. I think I'm nitpicking because, again, I'm getting into the over analytics of it. I thought it was fine for what it was, and actually, I thought it was smart to open the pay-per-view, especially after how hot the pre-show was. It was a different style of match to open up the pay-per-view, and it kind of let everybody know that, okay, we're here, we mean business, let's go.
Plus, Eddie can come back now and say, "You didn't really redeem me. in his next, storyline. He's like, I got to you, or something like that. He'll have some fire to spit at him, which will be awesome.
I have to admit, I loved his shirt. His shirt was brilliant. Redeem D's nuts after what he said like the week before. I was like, when he came out with that, I marked that out. I was like, oh, he's
very New York.
Said that last. Yeah, it was so good, so good.
GP, you here yet?
Yes, they made me believe that I actually what DJ said. I couldn't even envision the title on him, but by the end of the match, I was like, I could see them giving the TNT title belt to him in the future for sure, and I would believe it too. It's like a what's it called? A career accomplishment, a career achievement award. Just give it to Kingston; he deserves it,
And that's the beauty. That's the beauty within just the overall career of wrestling. It's you work so hard and you build up to a point where you're now seen, not just seen on television, but your name actually carries weight even when you're not on camera or you're not, promoting your brand or anything like that. So that's the level of where superstardom is laying that foundation. And I really feel like Kingston actually laid the foundation last night and let people know that I'm here, I'm from New York, and I'm ready. I'm coming for this man's neck.
Hey. Yeah, that sounds about right. What do you think, Brains? I don't know if you chimed in on that a little bit, but what was your insight to that match?
Well, I'm a fan of both guys. So it was kind of like, I think I would have been satisfied if it went either way. Eddie, first time I saw him on AEW, he came out and did that quick promo from the back. And I was like, who is this guy? I didn't know who he was, but I was like, he can do promos. I'm good. He can talk. And so far, especially leading up to this, he really proves himself, and he's just fun to listen to. And I can any little missteps, or maybe he's not the fastest or whatever in the ring, I'll let that go because he can deliver more to me as a fan than that. So, but I thought it was an awesome
more technical.
Match.
He's more technical. Yeah, he's more of a technical wrestler, and that's where that comes through. And whenever you have a technical wrestler, you want them to go maybe just a little bit faster, but they've worked on that craft for a reason, because that's something that has been missing in cards and big events like this. So you want to keep that technicality as talent, as an athlete.
After last night, I look at Eddie Kingston as the long lost Dudley. If you put him with the Dudley Boys 10, 15 years ago, he fits right in.
Yeah,
so it's a refreshing throwback. And he made a fan out of me last night, which mission accomplished.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest, my opinion, obviously that was the first match of the night. I wasn't really impressed with the pre-show. I didn't even watch the pre-show, if I'm honest. It was in the background, but I was actually chatting in Brain Server because there was like hundreds of people just going off on AEW conversation. It was pretty lit. But so I wouldn't say I was pretty underwhelmed by that. I don't know what I expected, but I think because I thought that maybe like the first match they're gonna come in like blazing guns, because they have to really show that we are here and we're not we're not WWE, but we want to like show that we are equally as talented and you're gonna respect us by the end of the night. But that match itself was Miro looks scary. He does look like he looks like a scary guy. But I don't know. I wasn't really like I was kind of underwhelmed by that match. Honestly.
I can see what you're saying, and I understand 100% because I could see how people would look at that and go, "Oh, there was a lot to it." I think for me, I think that match was a very, very heavily story-driven match. So if you weren't really invested from like a couple of weeks back, or even from the start of Miro's run, because like they just kind of like fed him. I feel bad for saying it because there are some talented wrestlers he's squashed, but they've just kind of fed him jobbers really. And he's just squashed everyone that's in front of him. So Eddie being his first test, if you followed that story from the start, gives it a little bit more oomph to it. But if like yourself, I mean, 100% here, I am jealous that that's your first taste of AEW last night, Queen. Because like if you're going to watch an AEW show for the first time ever, watch that one because that was phenomenal. But if you've not watched the storylines beforehand, it'd be exactly the same in WWE. There are quite a few things in WWE that are very heavily story driven. And if you've not picked up from the story from the start, you get to the match, you'd be like, not really much going on here. But there's all these little nuances that are happening during the match that kind of like call back to the actual storyline itself that make it that bit more interesting.
Well, here's the danger of Kingston Miro going forward in a program. And I think this is where AEW really has a chance to differentiate themselves between WWE. WWE would, at this point, build Kingston up to be a credible threat and then have Miro squash him in the next pay-per-view to blow off the feud. With everything Eddie did last night and with the seeds that match planted, if Eddie Kingston does not get a win over Miro, they've basically just Triple H buried him. So it's exciting for what's coming up next for this upcoming pay-per-view cycle, but at the same time, I guess we've seen it so much with WWE that I look at it like they're on thin ice, and let's see if they can get to safety here.
Yeah, it's a very dangerous line to go down. It's very easy to get wrong as well. So, like, we give WWE a lot. Well, certainly I know I can give WWE a lot of harsh criticism at times, but it is a very difficult thing to do to get that balanced and to get it right. And it's very easy to just slip off the rails slightly, and all of a sudden you've basically ruined someone's career.
The last thing I can say about that match is to build on what DJ said. Is if you notice the end, they actually put some respect on Kingston, giving him a rub by not only did he not tap out to his full Nelson, or sorry, his what's his finisher? The Crusher thing.
That was the game over.
So not only did he not tap out of that, he reached the ropes, but they didn't make him tap out or pass out, and they gave him seeds there for the future there.
It was a super kick as well, like because I've seen him do that kick many times, but he really put some power behind that one, and it was noticeable. So you're like, oh, he's really had to like dig into his locker to try and put Kingston away. So yeah, I agree with what you're saying there.
Yeah, and that's the subtlety you get with their storytelling that the commentators the next time, especially Excalibur and Tony Schiavone will really, hone in on that. He didn't choke him out. He didn't put him to sleep. He didn't tap. That'll be a big story point there.
You notice JR's commentating a little bit extra pepper on his commentating there. It's fantastic. This is gosh darn fantastic.
Someone must have gotten him a subscription to G Fuel or something.
Could you imagine JR or G Fuel? That'd be a nightmare.
Well, we might get 1996 Jim Ross again,
That'd be nice. That would be nice.
Yeah.
That's what I was waiting for. I was waiting for that the entire night. I was just like, is it coming? Is it coming? Is it coming? Like, just I'm enjoying the show, but not only just enjoying the show, but I'm like paying attention to commentary. I've come to a point that when I do watch WWE, I'm on it's muted. Like I'm listening to music and watching wrestling.
Wow.
I cannot stand commentary. I can't. The commentary is really what draws you in and keeps you watching as an audience if you're not in the show. And when you're at a show, you miss the commentary, and then you're like, well, this is the difference from watching it live and then watching it at home. So I really loved how strong the commentary was, because it was like they didn't miss a beat, especially during Kingston and Miro's match. It was constant. Like sometimes when you have a okay or bad commentary, there's brief silences and you're just watching the match. You forget there's people talking, behind the scenes. But it was so captivating and so just keeping you in tune. I honestly could count how many times I went to the bathroom because I was holding it half of the night.
I don't think I went once, actually.
Absolutely, I feel that. Yeah, especially the end, towards the end of the night, because that's when it was like you were grabbed by the throat, basically. You ain't moving nowhere. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So let's move on to the Moxley versus Satoshi match. I don't know if any of you have seen Satoshi in New Japan. I have not really watched New Japan. Any of you guys watch New Japan here?
Yeah, a little bit.
I dabble a little, yeah.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of the things with the guys.
Just dabble. Just dabble.
Yeah.
The legends are recognizable.
Mm-hmm. Yes, of course. But it's not only that, it's kind of giving, like, if you really love wrestling as much as we all do, it kind of gives you the insight, like, maybe I should start watching.
Yeah.
Because who are they going to take from there and bring over to AEW? Like, where is that talent going to go? And my best friend, Matt, he made a perfect like concept. He goes, I feel like now it's going to be, instead of AEW going for talent and WWE, now it's going to be New Japan and Ring of Honor. Like, that talent's going to be pulled in eventually into the brand. So it's like, okay, now, you want to make sure you do your homework. So you have, when they are, are saying I'm all elite, that, you have some type of background knowledge. Because how can you call yourself a fan if you don't, of the sport itself, if you don't do your homework?
Yeah.
Well, like, how many people know that? What was it the night before? Moxley's in GCW and takes their belt.
I laughed so hard when he came out with that hoodie on. I was like, I wanted him to come out with a belt.
So it makes you watch cross promotion from, Impact. AAA even, because you got Omega going down there and all, the Lucha Brothers and Thunder Rosa and all them doing that stuff. It's just
cross
it just opens the universe up. Yeah.
I forgot the guy who came in after the older. He's supposed to be a legend in New Japan.
Suzuki.
Yeah.
If
you've not seen him fight, it is brutal.
He is probably one of the most violent wrestlers, not only in Japan, but probably in the world. And
he is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Moxley Suzuki in the United States, yes, please. Just don't do it in an exploding C4 barbed wire match, because we saw how well that worked last time.
The good thing is with those two, you don't need to. You can just have those two in the ring, and it will be I can't even. I don't even have words for it. That was another thing. I exploded because I heard the music and I was like, wait, I recognize that. And then it come up, The King, and I was like, no way. And then it come out, and I was like, I wasn't expecting it at all, but I cannot wait for that match.
I love how Moxley had a similar reaction. He's like, no.
Yeah, he sold it really well.
The O bleep that came out of his mouth right when the camera panned to him was perfect.
Yeah, Moxley's just creaming himself. He's like, who shall I fight? One of my favorite wrestlers of the past. He just gets to pick and choose all these legends that he grew up idolizing
right now. Yeah, he's living
Satoshi shorts. The bright orange, I think that was my favorite outfit of the night. I really liked his shorts. Off topic. No, they were really bright.
I actually mentioned that too.
Yeah,
I love that.
That gear. Yeah, it was awesome. It different. It's not a color you see a lot.
Yeah, it triggers your eyes psychologically.
Anything else with the Moxley?
I quite like the match.
The promo later on.
Yeah. I mean, I liked the match itself. I think a lot of people, because again, if they're not too sure about New Japan or they haven't seen New Japan, it's a very different style of wrestling. Although certainly the core of it is anyway. You get some of the other wrestlers that are a bit more. You could see them mainstream in the US, but it's a completely different atmosphere as well. It's like if you hear the crowd in Japan, they're very quiet. It's a respectful thing. So when yeah, it is very much like that. So when Kojima comes out, and you could see it on his face, he comes out and he gets a reaction, not a massive reaction, but he gets a reaction from the crowd because some people know him. And he's like, oh, this is a bit different. And then when he's going through the match, there are times where it goes a little quiet. And sometimes that would throw off certain wrestlers. But for Kojima, he's like, oh, well, this is just the norm. But then when there are certain moves thrown out, the crowd really go wild behind it. And you could see it was really starting to push Kojima. It was a much slower match than most of the others on the card, but again, I feel that's a New Japan thing.
Mm-hmm.
I certainly don't think it's a downside.
No, they definitely worked a New Japan strong style match. That's exactly what Japanese strong style is, and I thought to be honest, I thought it was going to be a little bit more bloody. I thought we were actually going to get some kendo sticks and things like that. I'm glad it didn't, because it saved the color that happened in the rest of the show and made that more important. I mean, for a lot of, I think there's going to be a lot of fans that are going to look at it and be like, oh, it wasn't good. Where's Dean Ambrose? Okay, well, this is Jon Moxley. He's actually a legit ass kicker, not a whatever WWE wants him to be. And I think he's having the time of his life now because that forbidden door is kicked open.
Mm-hmm.
Moxley is essentially acting like the New Japan ambassador for AEW, and I freaking love it.
Yeah, 100%. I do have to say, just I don't know, because obviously we had different streams that we were watching on, but they did an advert at one point for Roads to the Top, the new documentary about Cody Rhodes and his family and everything. And at one point, Brandy's backstage. She goes up to Jon Moxley, and she's like, "Oh, how are you doing?" And he just sat there and he went, "Oh, I'm effing hungover and I'm going to go throw up." And you're like, that's the Jon Moxley I know. That is the guy that I know, and he's an absolute legend. And again, like I said, he is living his life at the moment.
Like what Ivy said, I love these after the match, right after the match promos. That's very different than WWE. And also, he's like, something about drugs. Lord knows I've done them all.
Yeah, I've done them all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was funny. That was really funny. He was
You
like,
could even hear the crowd laugh.
this is like drugs. This is better than any drug, and I've done all of the drugs. Yeah, that was really funny.
Wrestling Kojima is like ultimate drug, and Lord knows I've done them all.
Could you imagine him saying that on WWE TV?
Last week,
sacked.
Did you notice the week before that, Moxley was just, he was like, I was like, what is he doing?
So we go to the ladies' match. So personally, if I had to compare the ladies, I think because I'm so aware of WWE and these like powerhouses like Charlotte Flair and stuff, so it might take a little while for me to get used to the females of AEW. I feel like I don't know, maybe it's because it's a new company, but they don't have that confidence like someone like Charlotte. You know what I mean? I don't know what it is, and not only Charlotte, but the WWE women are just so in your face and out there. And I didn't really feel that with AEW personally. The only one I would say out of the AEW women is Thunder Rosa. Like, she's confident, she's out there. But the other women didn't really, the X factor, if you want to call it, or, selling point, they didn't really have that for me. So this fight between Britt Baker versus Chris, I don't know. Hit and miss for me. What about you, Brains? What did you think?
I mean, there hasn't been a lot of build up between Statlander and Britt. I don't know. It was just kind of meh. I would have rather seen somebody else as an opponent. But Chris has been there, for a long time, and she deserves a shot, I think. I don't know. It didn't do much for me. I don't know. It was kind of fell flat.
What about you, Dre?
I mean, I
think I defer my time to the lady.
Ladies first, Dre. Go ahead.
Oh, damn! Wow. Damn. It was fine for what it was. I think the match did suffer from the lack of build. And I kind of felt that they hot-shotted Chris Statlander into that position coming off of injury. Really, though, who would you take out of the Battle Royal and put in her place to lose? I think Statlander was the perfect opponent with the perfect outcome because Britt Baker is freaking red hot right now. And again, it goes back to the one criticism that I have of AEW is a unfortunate mismanaging of their women's division. If they can build up 2 or 3 credible contenders, yes, we know Nyla Rose has already had the title. Thunder Rosa has had her opportunities as well. You could throw a lot of those names out there. I would not have changed a single person for Chris Statlander. Again, right person, right opportunity, right story. I don't think this is going to be a build to them going into a long-term program. Obviously, with the Casino Battle Royal and everything, I think it was good for what it was, but it could have been so much better.
What was that siren? But anyways.
I think that might have
been to my end, actually. I don't know what that was. There's a train station not too far.
Oh, yeah, it must be that.
Apologies.
I was going to say my BS detector just went off. That happens a lot.
What about you, Mike?
I was going to interject something real quick.
Go on.
If you look at the women's roster, they only on the roster page, there's only 22 women signed as full-time talent to AEW. Your Battle Royale was 21. But the thing about it is you don't see a lot of them full-time like a Yuka Sakazaki, Emi Sakura until lately. I guess what I'm saying is that they really need to build it. Adding somebody like Ruby, and I'm hoping the former Iconics make it because I think they'll really bring some fun and some promo ability that a lot of those ladies don't get, or maybe just aren't as polished yet on it. Yeah,
it's a good call. That's a good call. I like to see them back. That was pretty funny. That their little iconic thing. That shit was pretty funny. I think the storyline wasn't properly built on purpose because Statlander is obviously a future champion, and so they'll probably build towards that later. But DMD is too over, so they're just, and the only person I can see feeding to DMD and putting her over, I really can't even think of anyone besides like Riho or something like that. But I love how they built. We'll get into the Battle Royal. Are we in? No, we're not there yet. Okay.
No, we're not there yet.
Okay. They're just Statlander's a future champion. I call her the Orange Cassidy of the women's division, and it's just she's got the boop boop, and it's funny. She's huge. She's good looking. She's pretty talented. But she's a little green. She's a little raw, and she's got a lot of work to do. She wrestling skills and mic skills included. So I think they're just putting her out there to give her a little rub, and then she'll be back in a year.
Nice pun there, saying that the alien's a little green.
I love that point. Like, if you have followed Britt Baker's career in wrestling, she is at her highest point. Like, she has succeeded so much and grown within her own character and with her own athleticism
Thank
that
you, Thunder
sometimes
Rosa.
you sometimes you need someone that's a little bit green to kind of, show why, she's champion. Like sometimes you need that one person, you need that one jobber, and it could also be a trail to her development when she does get the opportunity again to become champion and she actually wins. So it's always that you want the story in the match, but you always have to keep tabs on what's going on behind the scenes because you never know what you think is not significant could be an actual buildup.
I think I think the guy with the hand avatar and the rose needs to mic so it's not echoing on Ivy's end. Because I think was
Yeah.
it conspiracy? Did you notice that, or Queen? Could you notice
Yeah,
that?
yeah. GP.
It was originally Ivy that was echoing.
All right, well, I'm just letting you know.
I'm gonna add something to that. She said you need the jobber there to solidify the champion's place. You sound like Vince McMahon. No offense. To add to something that was said at the beginning of the stream, the WWE has now become AEW's developmental brand. The WWE is AEW's NXT now. Also, the reason why the AEW roster, females roster, looks as good as it does is thank you to Tony Khan and Thunder Rosa solely. A lot of the women you see on AEW Dark, on Elevation, and make sporadic appearances are through the Mission Pro banner, have trained under Thunder Rosa and Jazz, the phenomenal Jazz Hall of Famer, my Hall of Famer. That being said, there's a lot of work that the roster should do. Yes, the females roster. However, we are all in agreement that AEW is a promotion that produces superstars and lets superstars on the independent scene showcase their talents on a grandiose scale. Not to take anything away from the WWE, they've been the number one in the industry for several decades already. But AEW has definitively defeated WWE. And that was solidified in the history books last night.
I think saying definitively defeated them is a bit much. This is just on my opinion though, but it's mainly because I feel now WWE, and I've said this quite a few times at the moment, WWE they're not really a wrestling promotion anymore. They're a company that put on a TV show. And I think if they were, back in their heyday when they were a wrestling promotion going up against the likes of AEW now, it would be a completely different story. I'm not saying WWE would win. I'm not saying AEW would win. But I'm saying that AEW's definitively beaten WWE in the wrestling show or the wrestling kind of industry is the equivalent of saying, I don't know, Usain Bolt's beaten, I don't know, Kurt Angle at running. They're two different kind of entities these days. That, again, my opinion, but that's just the way that I see it.
I'm going to disagree on that. I think really it comes down before we can say that they definitively beaten them. It comes down to two things: pay-per-view buy rates, demo numbers. Let's throw out the fact that we're all fans and what the product produced last night was freaking amazing. Let's look at the business side. When those numbers come out, I fully expect them to be close to the level of a SummerSlam. I honestly believe that they are going to pull out anywhere between 150,000 and 200,000 buys. And really it comes down to thank you, CM Punk.
They've exceeded that.
So that, just based on the fact that they've exceeded those buy rates that's my benchmark. I'll agree. AEW last night definitively beat WWE and driven the third, fourth, and fifth nail in their coffin. There's just one more, and that's Monday nights.
You're hired.
Well, I do have a 10-year background in the business. You know, my resume is available for anyone that's looking to book me.
You have to do a promo with a broomstick first.
Oh, I can do that.
So,
And
Young Bucks
with
versus
a man.
Lucha Bros cage match, shall we?
Okay, so first of all, I'm not really a fan of tag team matches from the WWE experience. I just find them so corny generally. But this, oh my God. First of all, I thought, oh my God, who are these young guys? I heard so much hype on Twitter and on socials about this match, but I'm still, not familiar with these wrestlers. These are all new to me. So I didn't know what to expect, but wow. Oh my God. That was truly the best match that I have seen maybe in the last 2 years, 3 years. Through every single pay-per-view this year, that is definitely my best match. It was so the closest to Attitude Era. There was blood spill on the fucking to swear, but there was blood spill on the floor. There was, oh my God, it was incredible. It really reminded me a bit like of Hell in a Cell. It was incredible. I really enjoyed that match. I think it was the highlight, which is pretty considering I was so hyped for CM Punk's debut, and CM Punk's debut was overshadowed like by a mile. Like the tag team, oh my God, like I have no words to describe that. It was phenomenal. It was so good. Like it was amazing. That's my take.
Queen, welcome to All Elite Wrestling. Tune in Wednesday night.
Tell you what, if you like that match, you need to check out their ladder match between Young Bucks and Lucha Bros, because that was phenomenal as well.
Indeed.
You put those two teams together. I've never seen them do a poor match. It just doesn't happen when you put those two together. It's always brilliant.
Hands down, those are the two best tag teams on the face of the planet.
Mm-hmm.
Hands down. And they're both in All Elite Wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to disagree. I don't think the Bucks are that great. The Young Bucks they're athletic, they're young, they have a good look, they have a good gimmick and everything. That's great. They're a spot fest. And look, I enjoy a good flip in a match when it makes sense, but they have completely homogenized the super kick. It doesn't mean anything anymore. I agree. Everything with them is spot to build to the next spot, to build to the next spot, to the next spot. And the amount of storytelling that they provide in their matches are on the level of Dr. Seuss at times. That being said, last night, they showed me something that I hadn't seen out of the Bucks on a consistent basis. And if they can if they can kind of turn into that style going forward, then my mindset will change. But both teams put everything out on the line last night. The Nike shoe with the thumbtacks, I popped for like a madman. I've never seen that before. And Penta, you have to give him all the credit in the world for the amount of color that he had coming through his mask. That's a mask that you don't wash, you don't ever wear again. You put on a mannequin head and stick it on your shelf and say, that's a milestone.
Mm-hmm.
Penta and Ray Phoenix, I'll agree that they are probably one of the best tag teams in the world right now. And last night they got their credit that was due.
Just out of curiosity, who would you say, if you're saying that Lucha Bros and Young Bucks, you wouldn't say that they're the two best in the world, who else would you put in the conversation?
FTR.
Yeah.
Without hesitation.
The Bucks.
Yeah, without hesitation.
What you got last night was NJPW Young Bucks.
Mm.
Yeah.
So that what we've seen of them in AEW is equivalent to what they do on the indies. What you saw last night was what they do day in and day out. That's not to take away from what you said. Yes, they do a lot of Dr. Susie stuff, but that's AEW also. And you see that across the entire show, not just during the Young Bucks matches.
That the Young Bucks would win, personally, and then that's what I liked about it, is that you couldn't predict the outcome, because I was told that the Young Bucks, and for a while they seemed like they were gonna win, and it was like plot twist.
See, so go ahead, Glorious.
I was gonna say I think it was the right time for them to drop the belts, but I was worried. There was a couple of times during the match I was a bit worried. Like when Penta went to take the Jordan thumbtack kick for his brother, I don't know why, but for some reason in my head, I don't know if this is just like in the way that I've been trained to expect wrestling to go. I just felt like I was like, oh, please don't write him off, because obviously he's the older out of the two, and I mean he's not that old, but in wrestling terms, I suppose you could say he's getting on a little bit. I can't even remember how old he is now, but I was worried that they were going to write him off and go, oh, it's okay, we'll put Ray as a singles. And I don't know if that's just kind of like trained into me from watching WWE and getting them used to just like breaking tag teams up all the time. So at that point, I was like, oh, maybe they won't win it. But then, yeah, I was so happy when they did. I was heartbroken at the end. Like when Penta went and hugged his daughter, because his daughter come out bawling her eyes out. And like, she pulls away, and it was adorable when she come up to him anyway, because obviously she wants to know he's all right. But she pulls away, and she's like just covered in red as well. And you're like, that's what. And the belt was just like lathered in his blood and everything. But it was, I loved watching that match.
Ivy,
like I loved it, and you guys all made some amazing points in terms of the Young Bucks and just working the match and spotty. But at the same time, that's what tag team wrestling is sometimes, because you want to make sure that each wrestler gets their shine or gets the attention within their own match. So just to see how it was brought together and how, there was a point where you looked at the Young Bucks, and there was a point where you were just trying to figure out who was had one hand up or who was moving forward in the whole match. But that's what's captivating within a steel cage match. You go from thinking who's gonna win to the outcome of last night, and just that the end of that family just coming together and proud. Daughters just proud of their dad, a wife proud of her husband. Wrestlers they don't do it for themselves. They do it for their families. It's the idea that you can chase after a dream no matter how crazy people are telling you are for chasing it. So to me, that was the message within the match. And just the overall athleticism and the Nikes. First of all, can I highlight those are the newest dunks for Nikes that were just released last weekend. So the fact that that was, and I tried getting a pair, and I was like, really, you got a pair? And I don't freaking thumbtacks. I could have had a pair and rocked them down the street. But just the art in who they are was amazing.
And I think one thing that we're completely glancing over that made this match so great is the interaction on commentary between Dan Callis and Tony Schiavone, or Don Callis and Tony Schiavone, because legitimately they came across and they sold it like they legit hated each other. And Callis being Callis, he's great on the mic. He is I think he has enjoyed a bit of a renaissance in his presentation with AEW and aligning with Kenny Omega. And I have never seen Tony Schiavone just go. He went full JR on JR versus Paul Heyman from the Attitude Era, and it was great to see again, because again, it adds more realism to a already hellacious match. And while these guys are in the ring selling the moves and getting the rest in, you can pull back to Tony and Don going back and forth with JR throwing little jabs in, while the guys are getting set up for the next spot, and it flowed beautifully.
They were brilliant. I loved how they were just constantly having to go at him for his pink suit and his pink shoes and everything. And he was like, oh, he's still got the tags on. He's just going to give it back. And when he sits down the commentary, he's like, no, I've got loads of these. I've got like 10 or 11 of them just sat in a wardrobe somewhere. And I think what we Brits would call banter between the commentators was it was really good during that.
I think it's clearly the match of the night. And the only spotty thing that they really do in that match. I mean, I know they're spot marks, but that kick exchange, they've done that before, but they've never done it that over the top. They did the four kick exchange before, but with the nip ups and then when all of them are down and then the extra nip ups and then more, it's like, all right, that might have been a little over top, but it still was awesome. But also the blood just pouring out of his mask. There's no way he could even see. He was trying to get the blood out of his eyes. And the storytelling he has the shoe with the tacks, and then his brother's on his knees, and he goes in front of his brother and takes the sacrificial super kick to the face. I from the very get-go, I knew that they were going to win the titles, and I would nothing less. I would take nothing less than giving them those titles, especially after that entrance. Rey Fenix is probably my favorite wrestler besides Pac on the whole roster. Penta Cero, I just love that gimmick. At first, I didn't like it. I didn't even Cero. I didn't. But then I just okay, I get it.
It's hard to say it without doing the hand movement as well, isn't it? It's just automatic now. Zero mieto. You're like,
but
okay.
I loved it. It was great, amazing match. Bucks held the title for about as long as they should. I think they're the longest reigning tag team people in there, so now they can brag about that. They're over. They already were over. They already thought they were over, and now you got the people who should be over, the Lucha Bros, in the rightful place. So
they've worked hard
match.
for it throughout their whole career. So it was like finally their chance to shine. All their hard work paid off for that moment.
I just want to touch real briefly on that, on the 4 kick in a circle spot that you had brought up. That's the kind of spot that, I didn't like the Bucks for. I've been around enough promoters that would just call that indie-rific BS. But in that situation, it was a beautiful juxtaposition with, you had the hokey indie-rific stuff with the picture of the blood coming down underneath Penta's mask. I thought it was, it was a beautiful picture.
See, that spot was for the fans.
Yeah.
You're in front of a Chicago crowd.
Yep.
You do what they know you're familiar for. You do what they're familiar with you for, and you give them exactly what they want. They gave you every aspect of the Young Bucks as possible. That being said, by far and long, I knew, and this is not because I'm an insider and partners with Thunder Rosa in her company, but far and long that this day was coming for the Lucha Bros. Now, Cero Miedo, Zero Fear has been a gimmick that's always been over with me because of the Zero Fear. And it shows that neither one of those two guys have an ounce of fear in their body.
Oh, that's what that's what he says. Zero fear.
Yeah, Zero
Yeah.
Mieto is no fear. Or
Zero
zero.
fear.
Okay.
You like them
All
more
Spanish.
now, don't you?
He's like, oh, that makes more sense now. It's even better.
All right, well, let's
There's been a-
let's move on. Get your final thoughts out here. We'll wrap this up and
Don't
go
rush
on
me,
to Battle
please. Thank you very much. Don't rush me, please. Thank you very much.
I'm
That
out of here.
being said, yeah, you are. That being said, the young Bucks did what they came to do. That was to wow the crowd and put over the Lucha Bros as well deserved as they as it should be. They've been in the industry for so long, have been part of the AEW roster for 2 years. As a fan, I thought they were going to take it in their first encounter, and they didn't. And this was a well led to storyline and the perfect way to cap it all off. I think the Lucha Bros certainly deserve this, and kudos to them.
Still doing the Zero Miyota thing.
I love
Yeah,
that. Now
100%
I love it way more now. Thanks for the little nod there. But so conspiracy or Queen, shall we battle royale women's?
Okay, so it was giving me Royal Rumble vibes. Personally, I felt like I would have rather just watched Ruby versus Thunder Rosa. I felt like that was all fluff for that. Do you know what I mean? Like, they didn't really highlight much of the females that was in the ring. Like, as somebody who's new to this brand, I really don't even know who was who except for Thunder Rosa, Ruby. Yeah, like the rest, I don't know. There was so much going on that I don't know. It didn't really work for me. I felt like I'm not really a fan of Royal Rumble, anyways. It's not my favorite match of the year. So for me, it wasn't. I felt like, yeah, I would have rather watched Thunder Rosa versus Ruby without all that fluff. How about you, Brain? What do you think?
Well, I think I would have rather seen Thunder Rosa take it so that it would then set her up against Britt again. I was kind of distracted during that match anyway, so I don't know. I don't have much of a take on that other than I would have liked to see Thunder Rosa get that, even though Ruby was, that was her debut. There's plenty of time. There's no need to rush it. But man, I don't think she's gonna, unless they shock us. I don't think she's gonna take the belt off Britt right away. So that's pretty much it.
How about you, Jay? What did you think?
I mean, I've always hated wrestling in battle royals. I always hated calling battle royals. I always hated booking battle royals. Just because there's so much that can go wrong with it. I hate the fact that the one thing that bugs the living hell out of me in battle royals, especially when you have more than 5 people in there, is when people are taking bumps in a battle royal. A battle royal is punch, kick, punch, kick. Don't bump. Don't freaking bump. Unless, and here's so, Queen made a good point to where, the women weren't getting their chance to shine. In these type of battle royals, the only real moment that they have to shine is right off the entrance. As soon as they hit the ring, that's their 15 seconds to boom, hit the big move. Now I'm over. Here comes the next person, and it's a cycle. And then you have 3 minutes of punch kick. I'm not sure I necessarily like the format of the casino battle royal. I think it needs some tweaking. And I liked that Ruby Soho came in. It was I don't really think it was that big of a surprise that she was coming in. I agree that Thunder Rosa or maybe even Ty Conte should have gone over in that one. It feels like they're hot-shotting Ruby too soon, and I don't like it. I've seen better battle royals. I mean, it was fine for what it was, and it served its purpose and it got it over. But it wasn't anything that people are going to be talking about around the water cooler today at work.
What about you, Mike?
Yeah, I agree with pretty much everything that's been said there. I mean, there were parts of it that I liked. I liked how they were trying to advance some of the smaller storylines within the women's division. You could see that people that had beef with each other they did seem to kind of like stick together and try and forward those storylines a little bit. I felt, if I'm going to be super harsh, I felt the camera work on it was maybe a little shoddy.
I was thinking the same thing right now. I think that was it. The main thing was the camera work. I think because when they do Royal Rumble with the ladies, there is just close-ups. And so you really feel the energy. Do you know what I mean? But this was like distant. So it was like there was this people in this corner, this people in this corner. They were very segregated. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I I think the big thing as well was, I mean, what was being said before, that when it comes to battle royales, the big part is you have your entrance. That's a big thing. You get in there, you do some damage for, as you were saying, about 15 seconds or so, and then you kind of move on. But there were quite a lot of entrances that were actually just missed last night. And it's not like because the camera was focusing on something important, they were just looking in the ring. Like you would hear music, and because, again, the women's division isn't as established as it could be in AEW, should we say. There were times where the music would hit, and you'd be like, I'm not even sure who that is. And then they'd have gotten all the way down the ramp, and they'd have gotten into the ring and start a fight, and you think, oh, that's the person that's just come in, you know, because I haven't seen them in before. So if I was being super critical, I would say that was maybe off a little bit.
Yeah.
The match itself, again, Ruby Soho was always going to come into that match. I think they're putting her in a bit too early against Britt Baker. I think I probably would have liked to see Thunder Rosa, Britt Baker again. Whether it might be a bit too early to rerun that feud again, I'm not sure. And maybe they're worried about that, so they think, oh, we'll put fresh blood in and see what it's like. But I'm kind of worried that although I have confidence in Ruby Soho being talented and good at what she does, do I think that she should be taking the belt straight away? No. So I'm kind of worried that they're going to go, hey, this is our great new entrant, our great new signing. We're gonna bring her in. She wins the battle royale, and then she loses against Britt Baker, and all of her momentum at that point is dead. And I just feel they've kind of backed themselves into a corner a little bit with that.
What about you, GP? What did you think? I know you are close with Thunder Rosa, but as a viewer, what did you think? Were you satisfied? What do you think? Is he here?
He's
As a viewer, I was very taken aback at the way each one was dispersed from the apron, right? Like you actually didn't know who was going to start it off, and when you did see it, you're like, all right, this should be fun. Sky Blue goes out. I'm like, fuck, because I really like her. I know her personally. She's like gonna be she is, I guarantee you, Sky Blue will be on your TVs regularly. Don't know when, but she will be. She is. I watched her perform live several times. She's got it, along with Roxy, who wasn't there last night, but Roxy is another one you guys should watch out for. Anyway, that being said, the way they came out, I didn't expect it, especially the names that came out initially. When they sent Abaddon out there, I was like, oh, this is going to be interesting. Then them two went out first, which was surprising to me. However, the spots with Shida and that was awesome. The whole Japanese thing at the very beginning in the opening minutes of that was amazing. The rest of the Battle Royale went, I say, well. I do agree with you that the camera angles were a little bit off, and it showed some moments where not necessarily there were botches, but there were moments where, maybe someone didn't sell correctly, or it just looked a little off kilter. I agree. However, they delivered. This was one of the best females casino battle royales I've seen to date. And I do agree with you guys on the Thunder Ruby Riot thing. I think that garnered the largest pop of the night for that match. Even though Ruby Riot coming out of the entranceway garnered a pop, I think just Thunder Rosa and her facing off was so much more louder than the initial pop. Second of all, I think to be honest with you, I think they spent way too much time on that apron. Okay.
At the end, yeah, I agree.
But Ruby Soho deserves it. This is not to say that Thunder Rosa is out of the title picture altogether. As you see, when she was leaving, they cut the camera to her and she goes, "That's mine." So there's still something there. Eventually they'll get to. And AEW plays the long-term stories, which makes them tier above WWE by far because WWE has let that formula go years ago. That storyline will pick up again. Maybe we'll see Thunder feud with Ruby Soho. Maybe we'll see Thunder eventually get another title shot. However, I agree with I can't remember who it was said earlier. She's had her opportunities.
Yeah.
Now it's time for Thunder and the rest of the roster to put people over like Ruby Soho. As you see, if you guys watch the St. Patrick's Day match between Thunder and Britt Baker is as over as she is thanks to that match. Thunder and her pulled out all the stops, and I have no doubt that Britt Baker alone and Ruby Soho will do that when they have their match. So this is very well deserved for Ruby Soho. As a whole, the Battle Royale went well. I do agree with the camera angles, but it went well. It was a lot better than I expected it to be.
I'd love to see on the way before Ruby gets a title shot. I would love to see Ruby and Thunder have a bit of a feud on the way to Britt. I think that would make for a great watch, to be honest.
I agree. They know each other personally, and I agree. Like Ruby Riot's experience in the WWE, not just in the WWE, her indie experience plus her experience in the WWE speaks volumes, and she deserves to have the spotlight on her the way WWE has never shined it.
Yes.
And she deserves every moment that's going to happen from here on.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I think so. How about you, Ivy, as a female wrestler as well? What was your take on the all women?
And I mean, everyone has said it already. Like, setting aside the camera angles, and what really bothered me the most was everyone taking as many bumps. Like, a battle royal is supposed to be the one match that is less painful as possible. So definitely like taking all those bumps, but I feel like the women took that opportunity to showcase what they can do to pull some type of following for their own brand as individuals, as individual female wrestlers. So I did see that that attempt. I did see some, some women that was either not feeding correctly or, was late on the cell. But what I feel personally, because it's happened to me during indie shows, when your music hits, you feed off of the energy of the crowd. So I feel like everything was so rushed from entrance to the point that they were in the ring that they didn't have that time to say, I'm here, I'm going to kick some ass, right? So with that being rushed, I feel like that set the tone. But the level of professionalism that all these women had, and they were able to overcome those small hiccups that either a great wrestling fan will pick out or someone who's in the business will, analyze and critique. They were able to overcome that and not stay in their own head. And that's really important during any match. The more you're in your own head during the match is where the most mistakes eventually happen. So just them overcoming was the highlight for me, and it really showcased the women of AEW and what that brand, that women's division can do going on in the future. Hopefully it's done right, but I feel personally the way it's going now, there's some positive hope, and they're going to be setting the bar for every women's division across the wrestling scene.
How about you, Don?
I'll give JR's take on it. Nia Rose seems to have, she has a physical advantage over everyone because she's a man. That's why she has a physical advantage. It seems like Nia Rose has a physical advantage on the rest of the opponents there because it's a man. That's why. But anyway, back on point. No, I like the little mini storylines that were furthered, like you said, Glorious. I wanted Thunder Rosa to win from the very beginning. I thought she deserved it. She's my favorite wrestler. Brent Baker's over. she's the most over woman in. She's one of the most over people on the roster. But I understand why they gave it to Ruby Soho, because clearly Thunder Rosa is going to be a future champion. So you can't just feed Rosa to the hottest woman in wrestling right now, because that's, you know how that goes. That's not smart. So what they can do, which I was like, oh, that's why they brought Ruby. So Ruby's over, feed her to the Brent Baker monster, then continue the run. But then Thunder Rosa is the most organically built person probably on the roster. She went from, for me, complete no name, I have no idea who, to I love watching her. I love her passion. I love her caboose. And everything about her is great. And I love your face paint too, Conspiracy. The little Thunder Rosa shout out right there. But yeah, I was disappointed that Thunder didn't win, but it makes sense, because she's gonna get the championship in the future, so that's fine. And actually, I was able to watch most of the match, which doesn't really happen. Sorry, I'm done.
What about you, Darkwing? First, I will chime in. Thunder Rosa had the strongest appearance throughout the whole female battle royale. She had the strongest presence. I think her confidence comes across, and it's so visible. I don't think the other females are there yet, apart from Ruby, because she's obviously an experienced wrestler. But Darkwing, are you here?
Sounds like he's having connection issues.
Yeah, no worries. Sorry, what is anyone got anything else to add in on the female? Is he back? No. Okay, before we move on to Chris Jericho.
I have one observation about Thunder Rosa. She reminds me a lot of Candice LeRae. And if I could ever see a Candice LeRae Thunder Rosa match, shut up and take my kids' college tuition.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Can you hear us?
We just heard you.
I'm sorry. You talking to me?
No,
You just heard
Darkwing.
me? Oh, you didn't hear me. I'm muted.
Okay, so Chris Jericho versus MJF. Do you guys, first of all, a lot of people are saying it's time for Jericho to go. Also, he said that if he does not win, this will be his last appearance on AEW. He's basically retiring from wrestling. So that was obviously a suspense storyline for many Jericho fans, and he's got a huge following. Let's not forget. He's one of the greats. So for me, I actually enjoyed it. I like Jericho. I like the music. I like his bands. I don't know. I feel like, yeah, you can tell that he's getting on a bit now. You know, it's very visible, as it is as you age, it happens. You know what I mean? But he's still in top form as much as he can be for like all his injuries and just being around for a long time. Overall, I would say, yeah, I enjoyed it. And the plot twist at the end where, you know, they had said that MJF had won the match, and then the ref comes in and he's like, no, he had his leg on the thing. That was the plot twist, because I was like, there's no way they're gonna let Jericho leave. Like, he's a breadwinner. He's got a huge following. You know what I mean? Like, it would be ridiculous. He's been at AEW from the ground up. So yeah, no way. But what did you think, Brains?
I'm sitting here actually watching it back as we're talking about it. Yeah, that spot there with at the end, that's all Jericho. You could just that just has Jericho all over it. And I like that he made him tap out. That was good. I think I've heard Arn Anderson say a couple times that baby faces don't tap out, heels tap out. And so I like to see that, and I will even say that in chat all the time, just to rile people up because it happens. But MJF is just such a bad guy, character wise, and the future's bright for that guy. He incorporates, and just looking at him, so many heel styles from over the years. You can see so many different things he does. It's like there's little bits of Ric Flair and Rick Rude and those kinds of guys, just little things. So, and then he sells that back the whole time, setting up for the whatever you want to call it, Walls of Jericho, Lion Tamer. So I like that. And then he was working over the arm on Jericho again, like he did in the last match. So that's the thing I like about these types of matches with AEW is there's a continual process from each time you see the people when they build upon it. They don't forget what just happened, So, and that's what I liked about it.
How about you, Dre?
For me, there is no better heel walking the face of the earth right now than MJF.
Yes.
I to be honest, there hasn't been a heel as good as MJF since Ric Flair in his heyday with the Four Horsemen. He is easy to hate. It's like drinking Coors Light. It goes down easy and it's easy to hate. Jericho is one of the top 10 of all time that has ever laced up the boots. I think they foreshadowed Jericho going over a little bit too much because MJF has beaten him I think 3 times, and there couldn't be a fourth one. I think though that he is going to take time off and do what Jericho does. He's going to tour. He's going to reinvent himself. He's going to come back in another iteration, and that may be the final iteration of Chris Jericho. But that being said, these two guys put on a believable match of two guys that legitimately hated each other and just wanted to tear each other apart, and they accomplished it. I think it was the right finish. If the cage match was the match of the night, this was a very close second.
What? Okay.
And I say that not from the spot perspective and all the action in the ring. I'm go from just the pure storyline perspective, and the way that match laid out and the story that they told was it was masterful storytelling.
I'm gonna say for any of you who has ever seen any of Jericho's work, you watched 30 years of Chris Jericho happen before your eyes last night. Codebreaker, Lion Tamer, The Walls, the regular Boston Crab, the Judas Effect attempt. Like, this guy is capable of so much at 50 years old that it's unbelievable. MJF, not for nothing, because the stipulation was he'll no longer wrestle at AEW. I thought he was going to take the L. Because his contract is up, Royal Rumble is around the corner, and it makes sense that he goes back to the WWE to help elevate them to where they were, because that's the type of person Chris Jericho is. That being said, completely surprised the fuck out of me that he won. I expected him to win, but not so much. It was more of like a 30-70 thing, because they're pushing the 30 Years of Jericho book and all this other stuff. It almost seemed like it was right for him to go out, but I'm very glad that they didn't end his career there. Extremely satisfied. Maybe on another grandiose scale, maybe in a main event, uh, will he be able to finally retire on his own terms? And I think that match altogether was very well done. The match psychology was there. The many moments where you thought Jericho was just gonna fail, where he didn't have what it takes. It was all there. The match psychology from beginning to end was 100% on par with what I expected out of this match. Kudos to MJF for pulling out all the stops and going for it. The distraction with the baseball bat took a little bit too long. I swore the fans were going to erupt when Aubrey rang the bell, but I popped and jumped out of my own seat when the referee came down and said, no, his foot was on the rope. I fucking loved it. I thought it was Tony Khan that was going to do it, but the fact that he sent another official out there was good enough. And the match continued. And the way it ended from that moment was just superfluously well done. It was so well done. Because you could have taken the steam right out of the crowd at that moment, but they brought it right back within the last minute and a half of that match, and Jericho walked away victorious. It's fantastic work. Way to go, AEW, once again.
So I'm going to jump in here because I am a massive fan of both of these guys. I'm lucky enough that the other day I marked out massively because Chris Jericho retweeted me, and that made my life. I was like, hey, I'm done now. Cool. But these guys, they're phenomenal. And you look at MJF, and in my opinion, at the moment, he is the best heel in the business. I don't think there's anyone better than MJF. And the story that these two put on was phenomenal. A lot of what I'm going to say is very similar to what's just been said, but it's because if anything needs to be said again, just how good this was. I'd also quite happily say that was a close second for best match of the night. If it wasn't for the cage match, that would have been my favorite of the night. MJF it's strange because he's such a young guy. I think he's like 25 or something like that. But he's got such an old kind of attitude towards wrestling on his shoulders. He still plays like kayfabe's still a big thing to him. If you see him at signings or anything like that, he's just as much of an arsehole there as he is anywhere else. Like, there was a little kid that came up to him to get him a sign in. There's a clip of him. He's literally just flipping him off the entire time, just staring at this little kid, flipping him off. There was one where a guy in a wheelchair came up to MJF to get an autograph. And he said to MJF, he's like, oh, how are you doing? And MJF looks at him and goes, obviously better than you. Look what I can do. And then he stands up. And you're like, wow, okay, that's it. And he just goes at this guy, and he goes at this guy. And that's old-fashioned. That's the kind of like kayfabe that back in the 80s and 90s where it was do or die by kayfabe. I think his selling in the match was brilliant. I legitimately thought he was hurt when he started selling his lower back. When he came off of that, when he did the set out powerbomb off of the corner, and he went down on his tailbone, and the way he screamed, I was like, oh, is he actually hurt? Yeah. And it's been a long time since I've sat there, watched a wrestling match, and ooh, I think he's actually hurt. And that was just him selling. The way they played it, the way they told the story, and I completely agree, has got Jericho written all over it. Even to the point where, because the reason for the other official being out there was because Wardlow came down and Jake Hager came down, and they brought officials out, and the commentators were very specific about mentioning this. They brought officials out to kind of stop that, and there was one that was still out there when he saw Jericho put his foot on the ropes. And I, again, completely agree. I thought we were in for a riot. When that bell went, Jericho's foot was on the rope. I was like, oh, they've lost it. They've done such a good, they've made such a good effort on this show, and they've lost it. They're going to lose the crowd here. They're going to start getting all the BS chants and everything. And then the other official comes in and says, no, he had his foot on his rope. And it was brilliant. It's just, even just by, you've got to be able to tell the way that I'm just talking about this. I was so excited about this match. It got me so enthralled in it, and I absolutely loved it. I thought it was amazing.
How about you, Ivy?
I was just about to say the storytelling was my most favorite throughout the entire match because when you look at it from a perspective of a fan, you're intrigued because you're like, oh no, 30 years, Jericho, no, 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 no. And then you're like, oh, finally. But I don't know if you all noticed, but the actual storytelling within the referees, I think that was something to be highlighted because it brought me back to watching a football game on a Monday or, during, while the Giants are, 4 wins away of getting closer to the Super Bowl, those aspects. And it's just like, okay, you're also bringing the refs into the story because they are a part of the story. Sometimes it's like, oh yeah, a ref made a mistake, whatever. But now, just especially to have a female referee during a male, dominant match, which was amazing. Her ring placement, while she knew where to be, she was calling the right things. Of course, she was blindsided towards the end, but that storytelling of you know counterparts of co-workers coming together as referees, like no, like just that discussion just kept you captivated within that match from the very end. Like when you thought it was over, you knew it wasn't over because you saw that dialogue going. So you knew, like, wait a minute, maybe they might call the right thing.
She's a fantastic ref as well. She's a really good ref.
And I've seen quite a few variations of that spot done throughout the indies. And I have to say that was probably one of the best executions all the way around, from the referees, the announcers, the wrestlers, everyone involved in that whole scenario. Nobody missed a spot. Nobody missed a cue. Everything was on point.
Everybody was a part of the story. That was the most beautiful thing about it.
Yep.
Even to the point, bringing in members of, a member from each, like the inner circle, and just having that altercation, showing that passion, that teamwork, that family within those stables, within those factions. I think that was the most amazing part as well. Even though it was brief, that's where everything just smoothly transitions into one another.
Have Wardlow and Hagar faced each other? Didn't that happen already?
They have. Yeah. They fought a while back.
All right.
Yeah.
I thought they were setting up for that. I forgot. But just from the very beginning of I wasn't sure who was going to win or not. I was like, is MJF gonna do this? Because then he can brag about it for years, and that just adds more to his mystique. And if you can mute yourself while other people are talking, that would be great. But all I wanted to see was every single move that Jericho's ever done in his career, like the dude said earlier, and he did that. Aubrey, I didn't like Aubrey at first, but she has become so much better. I used to bag on her to get out of the shot. Now she gets out of the shots. She knows where to go. She knows where to put her butt. She knows when to spread her legs. She does all the. I'm not trying to be with sexist or anything, but she's gotten out of the shots. I did want to see her do the classic point at Jericho's leg. That actually pissed me off. No, it's a classic vintage Jericho. Puts his leg on the rope, and I wanted Aubrey to just point at it and then move on. But no, that's fine. They actually got the entire crowd even more nervous and more enthralled into the match. MJF didn't sell like a zany Daffy Duck character like he normally does, and when Jericho powerbombed him onto the turnbuckle on the outside, if you heard, he goes, oh shit, and then he gets powerbombed on the outside turnbuckle. I was laughing at that for 5 minutes.
They replayed it like 3 or 4 times in quick succession as well. So you heard him say it 3 or 4 times just before he got slammed on the apron.
So funny, man. Yeah, the storytelling was amazing. I wasn't sure what was going to happen. All I wanted to see was all Jericho's moves. I'm glad that Jericho ended up winning. There was something else I wanted to say, but that pretty much covers it. I'm glad that he's still there. That's pretty much it.
And if you notice, that power bomb to the apron was an ode to Kevin Owens.
Yeah, that was the first thing I thought of as soon as he did it. I was like, oh, that just reminds me of Kevin Owens slamming Sami Zayn in NXT on the power. On the apron.
Yeah. The best friend.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Like that
30 years
love-hate
of Jericho.
relationship. Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that was a great match.
So would you say that this is your second best for the evening?
Between Punk and Darby was pretty good too. That was pretty comparable. I love the storytelling on that one too. Are we segueing into that one? Is that
No? We're just going. We're going into that now.
Okay, well, yeah, that's what I'm segueing into.
Okay, so considering the amounts of mainstream coverage CM Punk's debut to the AEW has had in the last the lead up to All Out, it's been major. It's been on every mainstream platform. Everyone is talking about this. This has been the high. Well, this, in my view, was like that's what they were selling to be the highlight event of the evening. They had so much coverage that I actually personally believe that the match itself didn't justify the amount of coverage they made. They made it like, this was like Beyonce at the Super Bowl. You know what I'm saying? And then when it happened, because of the tag team match being so brutal, and I was so invested in that, it kind of seemed a bit underwhelming. CM Punk's great. He's great. But I don't know. I felt like maybe they should have done the tag team after, because it kind of like, it was watered down now. The hype was, I was already invested in the tag team. That was blood spill. That was everything that I want in a match. CM Punk, he looked tired. I don't know. I was quite underwhelmed, if I say so. How about you, Brains?
Let's talk about that spot where Darby goes through the middle of the ring and whacks the ring post and gets taken out by the steps. That was like freaking brutal. I mean, I think a lot of this for me, since there wasn't like a buildup of any real animosity or anything between the two, that it's just a lot of subtle storytelling, which is what you're going to get from Darby. And I think that's what makes him so unique. And it was a little slow at first, but it built up some steam, and I think it delivered for the fans that are huge CM Punk fans. I mean, I knew CM Punk, but I was a lapsed fan. After WCW went down, I didn't really pay much attention to anything for a while. So, but overall, I think if you liked CM Punk and good match storytelling, it was good for you. Yeah.
How about you, Dre? What did you think? Everything you hoped and wished for?
Yeah. I went into this match knowing that Punk was going to be bulletproof. He's wrestling for the first time in 7 years in Chicago in front of his people. There's no way he's going to lose. There was no real build. There was no real animosity between him and Darby Allin, but that doesn't always necessarily have to be there for a match to be good. To me, it looked like Punk was, getting his bearings back, getting his feet back under him, and working a little bit of a different style. He's older now. He's in his early 40s. He's not going to be in a position where he's going to be taking the kind of bumps that he was taking, in the last couple of years in the WWE. So I think what they did was they went out and again, the subtle storytelling was there, and that's exactly what I think they set out to do. The spot with Darby going through the ropes into the ring post was great. But I think the most telling moment of that match is Darby Allin going for the coffin drop off the top rope. CM Punk sits up and is just laughing. Here's the veteran, showing the youngster that, you're predictable. Does this lead to possibly Punk working with Darby Allin with Sting? Could we see a little bit of another mentorship happen there? That's possible. The most important thing that came out of this, I think there are two important things that came out of this. One, Punk came out of it looking good and uninjured, and two, it opens up the door for a myriad of possibilities. And I don't think there's many ways that you can go that is going to be a detriment to any of these guys involved. So I think it definitely accomplished what it needed to accomplish. I wasn't disappointed. It was one of those rare matches where I could sit back and just let the match happen because I wasn't going to sit and pick it apart because I knew it wasn't going to be at the level that someone should nitpick it apart.
Yeah, I 100% agree with what you've just been saying there. I can see it from both angles. I can see how, say, maybe the casual wrestling fans who just see, Punk's coming back after 7 years, he's the best in the world, it's going to be amazing, they may have felt a little kind of let down with it. But the guy's not wrestled for 7 years. So he does need to get his feet back under him. I'd like to point out that he looked in probably the most phenomenal shape I've ever seen him. Like when he came down to the ring and he took his top off, even I was like, damn, Punk. You look like you've been keeping in shape. I think then putting him up against Darby Allin in the first match was a masterstroke. You could put anyone in the ring against it. You could put me in the ring against Darby Allin, and Darby Allin will do some insane bump that makes me look like I've just thrown him through like a tornado or something. So he was a great opponent to have. I didn't want to nitpick things. I think the only thing that kind of annoyed me a little bit was you could really see when Punk was leaning in to tell Darby what the next spot was. But again, something you could put down to maybe a bit of ring rust.
I saw that too.
He was doing it a lot. He was always like in the headlock. It was almost like he was kissing him. But you could see that like his chin was going. You could tell he was talking to him.
Well, he had that time in UFC, and they call spots differently in the UFC.
Yeah. But it was good. I think it was slightly overhyped, if I'm being 100% honest. It may have been overhyped, but it's Punk. We've all wanted Punk back for so long. So it did exactly what it needed to do. I think it did help. Not sure it go as far as to say help Darby Allin. I don't think he needs the help, but it certainly, it went down well for him. He looked good after that match, even though he lost. And I can't wait to see what Punk's going to go do after this. But I think after that match, I'm more excited to see what Darby Allin's going to go do after this, because he's a star in the making. AEW are going to put a lot. They already have put a lot on his shoulders.
Yeah.
But that match has now made me want to tune in weeks down the road to see what's going to happen between those two, or even just what they do on their own.
Mm-hmm. How about you, GP? I just want to add at the end the handshake between both of them, and then Sting comes out. That was really sweet.
And real quick, in the post-media scrum, CM Punk said that was not planned by him and Sting. That Sting came up and just did that right on the spot.
Wow.
So,
That's a sign of respect, and that's where sportsmanship comes into play. And it's rare that we see it on a main event unless it's two best friends wrestling each other for like the 100th time. But just to see that raw, genuine respect, I think was amazing.
Absolutely. GP, are you here?
I'm definitely here.
What did you think of this match? Are you a CM Punk fan?
For several years prior to his WWE debut. This has been one of the most anticipated things in professional wrestling across the board, whether it be independent or mainstream. And I was actually streaming this in another Discord last night with a couple friends of mine from Oregon and Amsterdam and Germany and whatnot. And I had to explain to them that at every single WWE show for the past 7 years, whether it was televised or a house show, they've chanted CM Punk.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the culmination of 7 years of anticipation for all of the fans in attendance and at home. CM Punk delivered on levels that I didn't expect. And it was because the beginning of the match was not a Darby Allin showcase. It was grappling. It was professional wrestling. It was exactly what CM Punk wanted to come back to. I commend him for giving us so many minutes at his age. And what I liked the best, to add to what I think it was Gloria said, was CM Punk sitting up. When he sat up and that coffin drop just barely missed him by inches, it was perfect. The camera was there when he turned and smirked, just like every WWE camera was there for that smirk. We got exactly what we expected, whether or not you wanted more or not. We got the pops. We got the near falls. We got the, oh no, is Darby Allin really going to pull this one off? And then CM Punk delivering at home in front of a Chicago crowd like expected. It was a well-rounded match. I have nothing negative to say about it. Even though the beginning of the match was all rest holds, I don't care. I expected CM Punk to come back and professionally wrestle, and that's exactly what he did. And I was 100% satisfied, and I can't wait to see what he says or does this Wednesday. I think everyone in attendance definitely got a treat. I think everyone at home got a treat, whether they expected more or not. And I think we should all be happy that he was able to swallow his pride and come back and give us exactly what we expected for the past 7 years.
My last?
Nothing to say at all.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that was great. That was great commentary. Yeah, he came. Wow. The culmination of everything that's that he said. I said to my two friends watching, I was watching with two of my buddies. One of them's a huge CM Punk. Actually, they both are. But I said to both of them, I go, this is such a perfect guy for him to come back with. I go, Darby Allin. I'm like, Darby is really good at clench locks in the beginning. He's got that quick burst, and he does that exaggerated move. He's so tiny. I go, they're gonna do that a lot in the beginning to my friends. They did it, and like he said, Punk came back to wrestle, and I was so happy to see them in the ring. And I love how Darby gets him with a quick arm drag, and he's like, oh, okay. He's like, I got some rust on me. I got to get off there. And so the storytelling from the very beginning, these subtle little, all right, it's just, I was loving that. Man, that spot where Darby, I'm so happy he didn't split I'm happy he didn't split his head open on the ring post, because that reminded me of Brock Lesnar. Remember when Lesnar split his head open?
He fell out of the ring too when he like went right in between the ropes. That was another moment.
He went right through the ropes and hit that.
Oh yeah,
and that was not expected. You could tell that was not expected
you
because
can see CM
Punk's reaction.
Yeah.
Right? They cut to CM Punk and then cut back to the outside, and CM Punk looked at the crowd like, oh shit.
Yeah, there was a very oh shit moment there, wasn't there?
Yeah, he said oh shit too as well. Did you notice that? Darby said oh shit as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what's going on here? I'm like, did and there was it was like there was a couple of spots where they were the same as Jericho's and I can't. I'm blanking out. But there's spots that were the same. Usually Jericho does the Hurricane Rana from the top rope, but MJF countered it earlier. So then they saved. So they were like they must have been communicating because he normally does the. Oh man, see, it's like I'm all these different storylines are. I feel like they're setting up for the three triple trio tag teams because they have so many stables, and I can see Darby, Sting, and Punk now. Or sorry, no, you got Darby, yeah, Sting, Punk, and Darby, and if you add in a trio tag team with all these stables that they have, it's just more talk. That's just three, and it's just more promotion for them. It's just new, and man, there's just so many good things with this match, with the whole entire card, everything the way they built it. This, oh my god. What's Darby's crucifix pin? You know that crucifix pin he does? Dude, man, there's so many good things with that match. I can't even. I'm like gushing over this. It was great. Punk's amazing shape. He's super rusty. Yeah, they have so many future storylines that they can build upon. It's just it's amazing.
How about you, Ivy? What did you think?
Well, I've been a huge CM Punk fan when he was in Indies too, and I can honestly say that the level of passion in that match, the level of determination, and not just the storytelling, but the sportsmanship, like I said a little earlier, it just, from someone that has left wrestling 7 years ago, I feel like we all witnessed the light turn back on for wrestling last night for Punk. I feel like we saw the original Punk from when he first debuted in wrestling, period. And I as a supporter and as someone that respects Punk, I love the match that he had, and just that moment with Sting. First of all, my dream match, I'm just gonna put it out there, is Sting versus Punk. So I'm just putting it out there. For when I saw that moment happen, it was like I was 9 years old all over again. I was like, oh my God, is this gonna happen? Is this gonna happen? Is this gonna happen? And just to see that sportsmanship, I'm like, wow. I'm like, that's not something I expected, but you appreciate being in the business too. So overall, I love the match, and I'm gushing over it, just like Dan is, just gushing.
I think just to pick up on one of the things that you mentioned there, actually, when you said you could see the light switch on for Punk again when it comes to wrestling. He even tweeted after. I mean, I was watching his tweets are always on point. He's always brilliant to follow. But literally before the show, like about 10 minutes before the show was due to start, he just tweeted. It was just like the F word. You could tell he was nervous about it. And then after the show, when it finished, he tweeted with a picture from when he tweeted years and years ago, 7 years ago probably, saying, "I don't love this anymore." And his response underneath it was, "Oh, I guess I love this again," or something along those lines. It's like, "Oh, I've fallen back in love with it." And you could tell that from the match that he put on, as you were saying, that he did. You could see that light switch back on and go, "Oh, I've missed this."
For sure. And see, for me, because I was gonna be with all of you today, I stood off of Twitter. So the fact that I stood off of Twitter, I was only speaking to only you guys last night. Last night, my full attention was to the show and to my new friends. That was it. And Yo, let me tell you, the level of enjoyment just adding you guys onto that conversation. I'm sorry, I gotta put all of you over right now. The level of conversation that we've been having. Oh my freaking goodness. Like for me going through, I also work in the medical field. As an indie wrestler, you just don't work shows. Unless you live in mom and dad's basement, you have a real job, right? You got bills to pay. We all do, right? So from working in the medical field and just, the pandemic kind of just killing the light with you guys, AEW last night, pay-per-view, and just Punk's return has brought my own personal light back on. So from the most sincere place in my heart, so all of you on this panel and everyone that's watching, thank you. Thank you for bringing that light back. It had so far this morning, even our live conversation has been amazing, and just we were able to pull off of each other's energy. And I get dissed about sounding like Vince because sometimes, unfortunately, the most businessy aspect of the business we all hate. We all hate corporate America business, but sometimes we have to just sit there and look in the eye and just like, yeah, it sucks, but you're right, eventually. But thank you so much, and just seeing Punk's return, and we're gonna get to the other big ones that we witnessed last night. It was just
A fire. There's a huge fire right now.
going on
I,
in
I want
AEW,
to add.
and I can't. I'm here for it, and I'm glad to be on this ride with all of you guys.
I want to add to what you're saying. Last night when I was streaming it to my buddies in another Discord, none of them currently watch professional wrestling, and they all collectively fell in love with what they watched last night. I think it's akin to what we started talking about at the beginning of this stream. Everybody here is 100% satisfied, and there are several people in the chat. If you look down below at Queen Spiracy's chat right now, that would agree that they fell in love with AEW last night if it was the first time they watched it. I think they've done a great job. I agree with you, Silver, and it's welcome back to pro wrestling. Like, it is lit all over again. Like, if there was a torch that had to be lit, CM Punk carried it into the Chicago United Arena yesterday and relit the fucking fire for professional wrestling.
100% agree.
From a personal perspective on that, I have a 23-year-old autistic stepson, and for the couple years since I've been with his mother, we've tried to watch WWE pay-per-views, and he's tried, but he gets tired of it. He walks out of the room. Last night was the first time that he sat in a room for 4 hours, watched the entire thing, was actually like conversing on a level of a fan who had been watching all of his life. And as awesome as the show was for me, it was that moment and seeing just that spark of him showing me things that I haven't seen, and just seeing a love for wrestling, what professional wrestling can be, is probably the biggest bright spot of this year for me. That last night was it was an amazing connection. And that's, to me, the beauty of what AEW is doing, is that it is bringing back professional wrestling. It's showing people that professional wrestling isn't a stigma. You don't have to be stigmatized if you're a fan, and you don't have to surrender to the homogenized, watered down, overproduced characters that the big company in New York has been pushing down everybody's throat for the last 10 years. And, because of that, I fell in love with professional wrestling again. I was able to watch a show and be a fan again for the first time in 17 years.
That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's nice when when you have something like that happening. It's brilliant. I can, I'm a parent myself. I have a daughter. I couldn't imagine, like, not always having that connection, but then for something like that, for AEW to come on and all of a sudden there's that connection, there's that spark that really kicks in, it must be an unreal feeling, to be honest. But I think what everyone's, I remember the first time I fell in love with wrestling, I was like 8 or 9, probably thereabouts. Back in the days when gimmicks were just real jobs. So you had the IRS, the Mountie, Big Boss Man, he was a policeman. They were the gimmicks back then. I then kind of fell out of love with it for a little bit, and I kind of came back to it because just WWE became my soap opera. But AEW, 100% made me re-fall in love with it. And it also then made me kind of like discover all the rest as well. Because I knew about New Japan, I knew about Ring of Honor, I knew about Impact. Didn't really follow them all that much, but ever since AEW's been on the scene, it's kind of broadened my kind of like
a whole new spectrum.
Watching. Yeah, it is. And it's such a phenomenal feeling. And to know that it's not only doing, say, like that for me, but for it's giving other people, extra, more than just wrestling. It's just, it's a goosebumps moment, to be honest.
I just heard someone say that they haven't been in love with wrestling for a decade prior to CM Punk's departure. That is wild.
No,
so for me, the reason that is because when I started working in professional wrestling, I started with WWE in the developmental system down at Deep South Wrestling. So I started my career backwards. And so I was exposed to the machine. I was also exposed to Bill DeMott. We won't talk about that. But working on the indies is where I fell in love with wrestling. And the problem that I've always had, though, is because I was an announcer and it was my job to call the matches and put over the action in the ring. I stopped being able to enjoy it as a fan, and I looked at everything analytically. And last night I was able to take off the analytic hat, the announcer's hat, and put the fan hat back on. And that's, and that's why. I mean, it's not I wasn't sitting slogging through wrestling because, it was on and that's just what I did. I've always had a different approach to it. And since I started working at it, and I guess, again, it just comes back to that moment with my stepson, and everything that just reignited the what made me fall in love with wrestling in the first place.
Yeah.
That being said, I'm not to cut you off, Silver. I'm sorry. I'm in the
Go ahead,
industry.
baby. Go ahead.
I work with she's adorable. I work with Thunder Rosa at her Mission Pro Wrestling promotion down in Texas. One of my talents is Masha Slamovich, who's just appeared for AEW Dark in Pittsburgh. Also, Layla Gray of AEW Dark. That being said, I'm a promoter. I own Gorilla Press Wrestling. I'm a partner with Thunder Rosa's Mission Pro Wrestling. I'm a manager. I'm a travel manager. I have my own promotion, and I will never take off the fan hat. That hat will forever stay on because it adds to my creativity. I know what the fans want to see, and it is not what the WWE is producing. And as a fan, you give them what they want. It's not always what you want to see. It's what you want to see and the opposing fans' perspective. There are always two people in the ring, and you weigh out those options. You give the fans what they want. And I'm not taking anything away from your opinion. I'm just giving my opinion. What has made Masha Slamovich successful was the fact that I didn't take off the fan hat. When I brought her back from Japan for Marvelous Pro Wrestling to start her US tour, I made a video package for her that included JFK. She's the Russian Dynamite, and I wanted to see vignettes come back. So in order to give her a push for when she made her return, I made her a vignette, and JFK gave a speech. She was included in it because her name's the Russian Dynamite. The whole idea was that she would be a threat coming back to the US that nobody knew was as big of a problem as she was. That being said, That video was successful when she appeared at NWA's Empower in the Battle Royale there last weekend.
I saw her there. She was quite good, actually.
Mickey James and Gail Kim told her specifically that video is how promotion should be done. Verbatim, they said that is WWE quality production. It made me, I had goosebumps. I got goosebumps right now telling you this. However, that being said, in the industry, you know what's going on, but if you can keep the fan hat on, you will always have an enjoyable time. Always, beyond a shadow of a doubt. So that's why I kind of like have never fallen out of love with wrestling. Yes, there are certain aspects that I'm not a fan of when it comes to the WWE. However, I've never fully turned my back on them. Even though I said earlier, AEW has definitively defeated them. As a fan, I will still watch the product because I support the talent. So I'm not saying that's what you're saying. I'm saying like I'm always going to keep that hat on, and I've never taken it off, and that's why it's always been as enjoyable for me. So I encourage anyone that is in the chat watching Queenspiracy stream or anyone on this panel, never take that hat off. Always be a fan. Always have an open mind. Whether or not there's something you don't see, there's something in the long run or in the short run that we just don't see coming. And as a fan, last night I was 100% satisfied, and I think everybody on this panel will agree.
Yeah, and I think you're 100%. You know, you make 100% valid points, and the position that you're in with Mission Pro and your own promotion and everything. I think you have to, have that fan hat on. You have to have that creativity, and I take my hats off to you for having that. Where I think I'm a little bit different, and I'm not saying I'm right or wrong or everything, but just the way that I've always approached announcing and I always understood that my job was to put over what is in the ring and put over those talents. And I found the best way for me to be able to do that is to step away as a fan and kind of put on a more ESPN analytical type look at what I'm seeing, but still have a pro wrestling appearance because I worked as a heel. So I kind of had best of both worlds. I could do the ESPN analyst and I could be a total asshole, and it worked. I don't think I could have done that with having the fan, because I would always be trying to please the fan at the expense of the workers in the ring. So I think where your experience lies, I think that works perfectly for you. I think where my experience lies, it was something that I felt that I had to kind of a sacrifice that I had to make. And I just never brought it back after I left the business, if that makes sense.
I mean, I can relate to that because I along the lines went through a similar experience. Last night I mentioned earlier I had my best friend with me, and just our passion for wrestling, our friendship. We've been friends since 2008. We've wrestled with life together. That's my ride or die. And I just that interaction with him, and our personal conversations as we were watching the show, that's where the light struck. And a valid point was made. Never take the fan hat off. I personally did. I went in full worker business. In all my other business in the past, I'm very strict. I'm very focused. I'm very I pay attention to detail. But I somewhere along the lines, it could be from saying yes to the wrong promotions or saying no to certain promotions. It literally brought me back when I was a kid, and this is exactly what this industry is for, is to entertain, is to tell a story, and it's to like bring a community together. We're, like I mentioned earlier, we're on all parts across the world from each other right now, but we have these resources that we're able to come together and agree or disagree or understand or obtain a different perspective. And that's what wrestling's really all about. It's that perspective, that drive, and that enjoyment of a great show that we all witnessed last night.
I'm not sure when Sting started his career, but
a long time ago. He's 62. Do you know that?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, he's super old.
Years ago. I'm just kidding.
There's three
I
generations.
started watching him in WCW. I started watching WCW.
He drank out of a bottle for 1 year and wrestled the other 61.
Hey.
Yeah, that's with Sting, Punk, and Darby. That's 3 generations right there. It spans. It's bringing all these different fans together from so many different generations. It
keeps our family together too. Like, think about, stepson, best friend. It keeps that the community and just that love.
Mm-hmm. So let's move on to the Paul White, also known as Big Show for the fans at WWE. Know him as the Big Show. Is he the tallest wrestler in the world? Apparently he is. Him and the Great Khali, they're like the tallest wrestlers in the world, right? So what did you guys think? Paul White versus QT.
Well, I'm wearing a wetsuit. I'm wearing a wetsuit, yeah.
Dude, I thought it was like
he needs to go
Nia Jax's outfit, and he was wearing Nia Jax's outfit. I actually stole that because someone said that in your server, and I was like, I'm gonna use that. That's what I felt like. I don't know. It doesn't work with his body structure, his outfit, but hey, it is whatever, It was a good match. It wasn't like the highlight of my evening. Certainly not. I do like the Big Show. Paul White, whatever you want to call him. I do like him as a wrestler. I think he's great. I think he's great. Also, he had something. He's different compared to like the ones who are athletic, and not everyone wants to see that. Like, there's so much diversity. He brings diversity. He's also a very known face. A lot of people are familiar with him. So I don't know. I really don't have much to add on this. This was it was a good match, but it wasn't one of the top for me. What about you, Brains?
So the way I see it is QT is the playground bully who's been bullying everybody for months, brings in his guys, and they just kind of harass. And, you saw him in one, they even showed it where he had poured, coffee or something over Tony Schiavone's head. So he's just a bully. So Paul White comes in to step up to the schoolyard bully. And, if you've been watching this all along, then you probably hate QT's, persona. So that match was to kind of give us some satisfaction in seeing QT get beat down a little bit, put him in his place. So yeah, I mean, it served its purpose for that story, and so it was entertaining for that. And I'm always knocking on QT anyways, so it was kind of fun to see that happen.
What about you, Jay? What did you think?
I'm looking at your chat right now, and Spike TV pretty much hit exactly what I was going to say right on the head. Mm-hmm. It was there to bring the Chicago crowd down after blowing the hell up for CM Punk. It gave them a chance to go to the bathroom, get a refill on their drinks, snacks, whatever. It's the come down before the big main event. So, Spike TV hits it exactly on the head. That's what it was for. It was a quick squash. Nobody expected it to go 20-minute Broadway. So, I mean, give credit where credit's due. Paul White got in the ring. He did what Paul White does. JR called him the Big Show, which I popped for. Apparently, he's still the Big Show to JR too. But yeah, that's all it was. It was a nice bridge. It's like when you're eating at a fancy restaurant. It was the little bowl of sorbet they give you to cleanse your palate before you dig into the meat and potatoes on main course.
Yeah, I mean, you've literally just taken everything I was about to say. I mean, don't take anything away from QT or Paul White. but that was hey guys, you've just seen a match that you've all been waiting for. Now's time to go top up your pints, go for a piss, grab a pie, whatever, and then come back for the main show. It was all right. Did what it needed to do. I sometimes get a little confused with the referees in AEW because it's like, I'm pretty sure the ref turned around when, I always forget the guy's name, the guy with cutie, the big massive hairy bloke.
Comorado.
That's it, Comorado. Yeah, Nick Comorado. Yeah. When he came in the show, I'm pretty sure the ref stared straight at him when he came in to like start on Paul White, and you're like, well, surely that's just a disqualification. But like, hey, whatever. It was just a show off match, just while people went and topped up their drinks, got ready for the main event. That was about it, really.
Yeah, I'm not going to say anything about this match. Everything's already been said, so I just give away my minutes away to everybody else.
Go on, GP. What do you think? Were you a Big Show fan prior to him joining the AEW? By the way, were any of you a fan of him when he was?
Growing up, I was a Paul White WCW fan. When he showed up when
he had hair.
To feud with Brock Lesnar, I was amazed at what they could do with someone like Paul White when he finally made it to a show like what the WWF was at the time. The feud between him and Brock Lesnar was gold then, and there's but so much time that you have being a man that size. Not taking away from him, but he's had hip surgeries. He's lost several pounds from being a 500-pound man. The guy looks good. He finally put on a singlet again, climbed back in the ring, and did exactly what I expected. He chokeslammed QT within 5 minutes, and, not to take anything away from anyone, but the entire match could be summed up in 2 words for me: lackluster. And that being said, I agree with Glorious. That match was so you can go refill your pints, your glass, go get some cotton candy for the kid, hit up the merch table or whatever. However, it did deliver on putting a pin in the ass of QT Marshall. After several weeks of us getting him on the mic and wearing the same shirts, and you're like, come on, guy, get him out of our face. Paul White was the right guy to give him that one choke slam, sit his ass down, and give him the F you. You know what I mean? At the end of the day,
put him on timeout. Put him on timeout, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. At the end of the day, the match did exactly what we expected. I didn't expect it to go 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes at all. I knew it was going to be a squash match. That's what QT is there for. He's the guy who brings in the talent for AEW. And that's what he did last night. He helped put Paul White over on the AEW stage, whether it was a 15, 20-minute match or not. And the fans got their little cheap pop for the choke slam. They got to see Paul White in action at AEW in front of a Chicago crowd on pay-per-view. And I guess we're all satisfied for just that. He didn't come in to just be a commentator or someone on the mic. And I think we got a good, whatever it was, 6-7 minutes out of that, 3 to 5 minutes, whatever it was. But at the same time, with QT Marshall being the person he is for AEW, bringing in talent, the fact that they give him that opportunity to be the guy to scout the talent or to bring in, he should have given us a little bit more himself. So I sum it up in lackluster. I do appreciate that he threw the singlet on and climbed in that ring regardless. Big Show was given an opportunity to go in there with Sheamus and then his final run in WWE and do a couple things, and then they forgot all about him. And then what happened? Randy Orton did what he did, and he got the boot, and he got let go. I'm glad Paul White is here at AEW. However, again, lackluster match. I did enjoy the choke slam. It was a sight for sore eyes. But on to the main event, right?
I'd hate to take that choke slam. Just the height that he gets with it is unreal.
It was your typical jump off the top rope into the choke, though. Like I expected that 110%, and it happened. So,
I mean, from getting body slammed and choke slammed by tall men, starting, training when I started in the indies, that is one hell of a ride. Like, the choke slam happened so quickly, but if you knew like the roller coaster of emotions that take place when you're the guy or the girl taking it, oh my God, it builds this crazy adrenaline. And I have to agree with everybody. I think we're all on the same page. The match was a squash match. It did its due diligence within the card, in terms of where it was placed. But it was definitely nice to see Paul White somewhere else. From watching him in WCW as a kid, again, Goldberg, the Sting, Paul White. Those were the guys that that brought me into wrestling. And then later on, it was Chris Jericho, DDP. I'm sorry, DDP and WCW as well. And it's just a level of the art of controlling the fans' emotions throughout a card. Within a event like this, you go up, 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 you come down a little bit, and then you go back up, and then you literally come right back to where you're neutral, where the main event takes you.
Yep, that's booking 101.
I know, right?
If there was a Harvard class on how to become a pro wrestling promoter, that would be the first prerequisite. Booking 101.
I'm telling you. I think all of us could be professors in that, in terms of our experience.
Yeah.
We have such unique perspectives, and just how we piggyback off each other. It's also for the people watching right now. Thanks for giving us your time, and just getting a little bit more insight on the wrestling business and world, and not just AEW, but the doors that AEW is opening up within wrestling, period.
Absolutely. So for me, this match, let's get into Kenny Omega versus Christian Cage. To me, wow. This is my second best match. I would say match-wise, definitely the tag team, because it was brutal. It was savage, blood, jumping, all kinds of crazy shit was going off. But for entertainment-wise, Kenny Omega gives me Shawn Michaels vibes. He's good on the mic. His facial expressions are so on point. He's good at TV. Like, he knows that there's a camera there, and he's always in character. Do you know what I mean? Regardless, any angle the camera catches him, he's on point. He knows that there's a camera right in front of him, and he's, to me, the best at doing TV in this era. Definitely, he is made to be what he's doing right now. And when they say he's the greatest wrestler right now, like, to me, that is such an accurate statement. Like, he's just all round great, good on the mic, the facial expressions. He's really that person. He's a good wrestler. That match to me was so good. I was so invested. It was the right amount of time. It wasn't too short. It wasn't too long. It was, again, even when it, like, a lot of the time it was giving me Bret Hart versus Shawn Michaels, a lot of nostalgic points to me. I love Kenny Omega. I think he's great. I think he probably is my favorite wrestler right now, I would say. He's a badass. He's great. Like, I don't know what else to say. Christian Cage, I don't know. Like, not really. I feel like, yeah, they're good. They have great chemistry, but him as a wrestler, he didn't really stand up to me, especially with someone like Kenny. his charisma, his character is so strong. It comes across so strong. I feel like even the camera loves him. The camera loves him. Every angle he's there, like he's in the, you know what I mean? So for me, that was definitely my second best match. Then when everyone's screaming yes, yes, and we think now, this is when Bryan Danielson, and this is going to take me some time to get used to calling him Bryan Danielson because I'm so used to calling him Daniel Bryan. Pop up, we have Adam Cole show up. There was rumors that he may or may not show up. There was no guarantee. Daniel Bryan was guaranteed pretty much, but Adam Cole was not guaranteed. And I think even in that moment, so many people expected Daniel Bryan to show up, and he didn't. And it was Adam Cole, and that was like huge. The crowd went mad. They weren't even like sad about Daniel not being the one coming out of the smoke. Like everyone was going nuts. The music, his song, the A Baby, that just did it. And then he comes on, and then we don't know what's gonna go on, and then they hug him and Kenny Omega, and it's like, oh, he's part of the squad. And then the moment that everyone has been waiting for, Daniel Bryan's thing shows up. Fucking, I don't even know his name. I'm like, keep on getting confused. He shows up, he gets into the ring, and he's like, great dialogue. It's not corny, like not WWE corny, you know, like they go down the Shakespeare route where it's like so corny. I just don't know who's writing the dialogue at WWE, but it is so corny. He, you know, and he says that, no brainer, I want to go to this company because the talent here is incredible, and it's just like a really good brand right now. And I'm excited for the future of AEW, man. Wow, the amount of talent that they have under their belt right now. Yeah, that to me, that match right there was, and how it ended. Like, even just remembering, everyone I know who was watching it was like, I can't even go to sleep right now. Like, they were so high. They were so
Yeah.
like, no one was like, dude, everyone was like shocked because not only did you have Adam Cole show up, but then you had Daniel Bryan, and I don't feel like it overshadowed Adam Cole's debut. Personally, I feel like it added more to him coming out, you know, personally. But we're gonna go this direction now. So, Dan, what did you think about Kenny Omega, Adam Cole, and Bryan Danielson?
I made a joke to my friends. I predicted that obviously FTR was going to interrupt the Christian Cage match versus Kenny Omega. That was clearly going to happen. But I made a joke that Adam Cole and Bryan Danielson were going to come out as a tag team together. I go, watch, they're going to come out as a tag team together, and Cole comes out. So this is where I think these trio titles are going to come into the play. Because now you have, again, I was tongue-tied earlier because there's so many different things, but with the Darby Allin, Punk, and Sting, that's another trio right there. And now you have Cole with the Elite, but you have another faction joined with Daniel. What happened there?
I don't know, you froze, but you're okay now.
Oh, okay. But now you have another faction with the Dino brothers with Jungle Boy, and then you have Daniel Bryanson joining there. Bryan Danielson there. So then you have that's another faction right there. This company is loaded with trios now, and it's like it seems primed. All these rumors have come true. The Ruby Soho. Cole, all these Malachi, Punk, Bryan, Daniels, all these rumors have come true, and so the trios are another rumor that I've been hearing for a long time, a lot longer than so many of these rumors that have already come true. So it just seems like a logical step and another layer to add to this. Go ahead, man.
The trio titles have been prepared. they were supposed to be revealed, and the pandemic put a damper on that. They were supposed to be, if I'm not mistaken, they were supposed to debut during the Jericho Cruise last year. But we'll see what happens during the Jericho Cruise in a month.
Oh, the cruiserweight title, man, that's another belt there. Like, why don't they bring the cruiserweight title back?
No, he's
No, I
talking
mean, it's the
about
Rock and
the
Rager.
cruise. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
Jericho stayed on the ship where he has the wrestling
Yeah,
show.
his actual cruise.
Rager Cruise.
He does it
Yeah,
every
his
year. I
actual
just
He does
desperately
every
want to
year
go.
with music and pro wrestling, and it happens. Actually, on his cruise, they aired one of Dynamite's episodes. If
Oh,
I'm not
didn't they do
mistaken.
the? They did the. Who was it? It was Hangman Page and Kenny Omega, wasn't it? When they had the tag titles against.
2
I can't
years
remember who
ago.
they were fighting. Yeah, it was so good.
Speaking of Hangman Page, what's going on? What's going on with that?
He had a baby.
Where was he at?
He's got a baby. So
Mm.
he's taking time off.
Okay.
Let's get through this main.
So, Ivy, what was your take on the Omega? By the way, did you guys watch him at New Japan?
Yes.
Everyone's like, yes.
Oh yeah, the
What
cleaner.
was your take on that, Ivy?
I mean, well, for one, did anyone notice that Kenny Omega dyed his beard a little extra for this pay-per-view? Because I was looking at his beard, and his beard looks so much more darker than it normally does. And literally, his beard looks like the color of my hair. But those are the little things. But I don't want to take away from the actual match before we say, these grand appearances towards the end. I want to focus on the storytelling and the athleticism during Christian Cage and Kenny Omega's match. That was something another match that kept me intrigued. Me personally, I've been following Christian Cage's career since he was tag teaming with Edge. And, it's beautiful to see Christian Edge as a solo individual wrestler where he's getting all of the attention, all of the pop, all of the live streams. Especially seeing him with an Impact belt walking down a ramp on a different company's live pay-per-view. It just shows the availability AEW has to these different companies that, hey, we do want to work with you. Tell us how you want to do this so we can figure it out and give the fans what they want. So that mentality of putting the fans first and giving the fans what they want, but still adding those twists here and there. Really, that match was the build up to the end of the night. And I personally couldn't go to sleep. I looked at my husband and I was just like, I'm really awake, but I got to do this podcast tomorrow morning. Like, I got to go to sleep somehow. I don't think I go to sleep. But just the overall to see Christian come into his own, and I've had the pleasure to have several conversations with him, just as a regular human being, and he is a great professional overall. And I can't wait to see what else is next for him. The fact that Daniel Bryanson was the first person that he kind of checked on that was still down in the ring. If you look back and realize it was Christian. It was like the veterans checking on the veterans and protecting, the new generation of wrestlers. So that was beautiful to see within that small dose towards the end of storytelling.
What about you, GP? What was the highlight of this match for you?
There was a lot to mull over. I'm gonna give a general consensus of the match. I didn't expect anything less of Christian. He delivered as expected, and I know you guys heard that a lot. But Christian is not done for, by far.
Mm-mm.
Christian is not done for. He still has plenty to offer the fans. Still has plenty to offer AEW. By God, he's the Impact World Champion. That being said, I didn't think Kenny was going to drop the title. I didn't think they
Oh,
were
you know.
going to start letting Christian collect titles. One of the furthest things from my mind was going to happen. However, that being said, they delivered. They gave the fans everything they wanted. They took us on a roller coaster, like Ivy said. They specifically took us on a roller coaster for that main event. And just when you think uh, Christian might pull it out, here comes the one-winged angel from the top rope. It's over, and it's like you're like, oh man, this is done. Christian's done for. The show's over, and I look at my clock, and I'm like, we still have quite a few minutes left. So then here comes Don Callis, here comes the Young Bucks, here comes, and I'm like, they're not going to. Me knowing what I know on the inside, I know there's plenty of minutes left, and they are not going to end it with a Don Callis Young Bucks moment where Kenny Omega does like that triple V trigger shit again. Excuse my language. I knew that wasn't going to happen. So out of anticipation, I waited for the music to hit. And when the lights went out, I didn't know they were going to turn the lights out. When the lights went out, the fan blood started rushing through my veins, and the Adam Cole music came on, and the screen, just like a millisecond after the audio, you see the screen turn yellow, and you see the glow, and you see Adam Cole, baby, and I fucking popped. I knew he was gonna be there, but I still popped so hard, like if I was in Chicago. I popped so hard. He comes out, he cuts the promo, and then he's about to cut the promo. He gives the super kick to Jungle Boy, and just moments before, I thought the Bullet Club is back together. And then here comes the super kick and the hug, and the Bullet Club is back together. The only person missing is AJ Styles. That being said, that's a whole nother conversation for another time, because my buddy and I before this stream had the conversation that he wants to retire. It would only suit him right to still come in, but he wants to retire for his son, and being a man of integrity, I think he is going to retire with the WWE. So that aside, when Adam Cole came out and they gave the hug and he grabbed the mic, I'm like, oh no, what's gonna happen? And then he said, no chance in hell. He straight up used the main line, the title from Vince McMahon's theme song. And I was like, what a jab. What a jab. Like, just the day before yesterday, the internet was speculating you were going to resign, that you were in talks. And me knowing the opposite, you walk in and drop that tag like it's no tomorrow, and the fans pop. They even went boo. If you go back and you watch it, you can hear the fans boo that line because they know it was about Vince McMahon. But the fans popped because they know he was taking a dig also. And then the lights go out, and you hear the Daniel Bryan theme. I'm sorry, the lights didn't go out. You hear the Daniel Bryan theme, and I'm like, holy shit. They kept the same song. And then the song changed, and I fell in love with Vince's music. He looks great. He looks great.
Awesome.
He came out. He did his kick from the corner. He did the yes kicks. The fans were into it. They chanted yes as the cameras were about to go off the air, and he was bobbing his head. Yes, yeah, like he was bobbing his head. He wasn't pointing in the air like the typical Daniel Bryan, or the Bryan Danielson was nodding his head in.
It went with his music too,
and in agreement with the fans. His music is by far awesome. Like, they kicked it up a level on the Valkyrie music. They kicked it up, and I love it. He looks great. Adam Cole looks like he's got a whole new fire. And I commend Being the Elite for doing what they've done in trying to solidify AEW as a name, because it's not just Cody Rhodes and Tony Khan. The Young Bucks are also at the top of that company. behind the scenes. They hold executive positions. So when you take into consideration people like Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, Cody Rhodes hold executive positions, they want their men there. And Adam Cole was destined to be all elite material. And I'm so happy that he's here. I can't wait to see who his first match is going to be against. I can't wait to see him deliver on the scale that he delivered when NXT took over SmackDown that night. Like, I cannot wait to see that intensity from Adam Cole. Daniel Bryan, I just can't wait to hear what he has to say. Like, Daniel Bryan is of a caliber that cannot be compared. Like, this guy was told he was never to wrestle again, much like Edge. And he came back and delivered week in and week out without failure for the WWE. And I can't wait to see what he has to say or what he has to give to the fans of All Elite Wrestling. After being put in a position where you feel you may never compete again, and now you've got a whole fresh new start, I want to see it. I can't wait. I can't wait.
It's another show we can have is just who the heck these guys are gonna. All these new wrestlers are gonna wrestle. There's so many different potential matches that we can have. Dream matches. It's yeah, that's insane.
Yeah.
What did you think, Mike?
Well, I'm just going to start off by saying the entire time that Gorilla was talking, I just spent the entire time going, just like nodding the entire way through. So true, everything that was said. The match, the Kenny Omega Christian Cage match was, I really liked it. Again, there was a really strong kind of undercurrent of storytelling. There always is with Kenny Omega matches. And I think Christian Cage kind of gets overlooked for that a bit. But he's always been quite good at doing that as well. People don't really seem to assume or don't really put him along that line for some reason. I don't know why. But they complemented each other so well. It was back and forward. There were times where, I mean, I never thought Kenny was going to drop the belt either. But there were times, again, where it started to look like it may sway the other way. And you were sat there going, really? Are they going to do this? Are they going to give him another belt from Kenny? Some of the spots were great. I loved how JR lost his mind over a table being broke a different way than normal, because obviously Cage like jumped up and stamped
amazing.
on it.
Oh my god.
And that bump that Christian Cage took where
he got impaled.
When they went through the table on the outside and the leg came through the table. Like, I don't know if anyone in his like ever had like broken ribs before or anything like that. But
yeah.
Oh,
I heard.
It's horrible. So imagine like a really, and they're not like most of the rest of the table. People always go, it's gimmick, you know, it's almost like balsa wood. It's designed to break. The legs aren't. The legs are just pure, like metal, steel, whatever. And that went straight into his side, roundabout where his ribs were. And I was really worried because I was like, if that's hitting as hard as that looks it has, that's going to hurt. And you could see him bleeding like straight away, but he carried on. And the finish was great. It just felt like it was told in a way that your hero has come up against the true baddie and he's just inches short of winning. It was a great storytelling match. So really, really enjoyed that. I mean, I knew there were going to be surprises after, but I'd have been happy if the surprises weren't there. I'd have been happy with the pay-per-view ending like that.
Yeah.
You know, it was a really good match. I knew Daniel Bryan was going to be, well, I say I knew, I didn't know with any certainty, but it had been said that Daniel Bryan was pretty much a lock-in for AEW. They wanted to debut him at the big New York show, but because of the COVID cases rising, they didn't know if that was going to go ahead. So they wanted to bring it forward to All Out. Obviously, I knew the whispers of Adam Cole possibly going to AEW, but I'd heard, like Gorilla was saying, I'd heard everyone going, he's re-signing WWE, it'll be fine. I'm sat there thinking, Twitch is such an important part for Adam Cole. Like, unless they consented and said, right, okay, you can still stream if you want. I didn't think he was going to re-sign with WWE. But again, it wasn't kind of like, it wasn't common knowledge that Adam Cole was going to be there. Like, if you knew, you knew, but if it wasn't like obvious. So when the lights go off, I'm expecting Bryan Danielson's music to hit. And I'm like, oh, okay, here we go. This is going to be good. And I'm ready. And I'm like, at that point, when you're about to pop, but you're just holding it in. You're expecting something big to come. Adam Cole walks out with his music. I mean, I'm getting like the hairs on my arms are standing up now. So his music hits. He comes out. He's got Adam Cole, baby. I've been such a big fan of his for a very long time. And I lost it. Like, again, this is, 4:30 in the morning for me? And I'm screaming at the top of my lungs. My neighbors must hate me. So he walks down, and I'm like, once I composed myself, by the time he gets into the ring, thinking, they're not going to bring him in as a face. That's a bit strange, but all right, okay, I can go with that. So he comes in. He then does his Adam Cole, baby, where the crowd all get behind him. That's probably the loudest I've heard it. And I know WWE get done for they get mocked for piping in sounds. But that was like, it sounded like it was just pure crowd from the AEW crowd. They all loved it. Then he did the super kick on Jungle Boy, cuts a promo where he's like, oh yeah, these are my best mates. And it was just phenomenal. And again, I'd have been happy if the pay-per-view finished there. But then Kenny Omega's like, oh, did I do that? And also, like Gorilla was saying, the No Chance in Hell line popped me massively. Then music hits again, and it's, it's Daniel Bryanson. Wow, I'm having that issue now. But Daniel Bryan comes out, or Bryan Danielson, and I'd heard as well the rumors were that AEW didn't want to fork out all the money for the rights to Ride of the Valkyrie because apparently it was very, very expensive. So they needed to find some form of a remix, and they got it spot on. If that was the case, and they had to go for a remix of some sort, they picked the right one because it was brilliant. Mm-hmm. He comes out. And I don't know if it was just his top knot or something, but he looked buff as hell. He looked like he'd really put on some muscle. He looked badass, mean, comes into the ring, saves the day, and I completely lost it. And like Queen was saying earlier on, after the pay-per-view finished, I climb into bed because it's like 5 a.m. in the morning, or it's past 5 a.m. And I'm literally saying on Discord to these guys, I'm like, how am I supposed to go to sleep? I've got to get up in a bit to be on the panel show. How am I supposed to sleep after that? And I didn't sleep until about like 6 or 7 o'clock, just because it was almost like adrenaline just going through my veins.
Was
that
you with the emoji? You can't sleep with
with a cancer monster, yeah. Because literally, it's like what I'm living off at the moment. But yeah, I've not had that feeling for a very, very long time. I'm excited to see what the Bullet Club essentially do. I'm excited to see what Adam Cole does. I'm excited to see what Bryan Danielson does. I'm just excited. This is an amazing time to be alive as a wrestling fan. It's phenomenal.
I can't wait to see Jay White walk through walk across that stage and claim that he knows who the real Bullet Club is in New Japan. And that's bound to happen with their relationship with Ring of Honor.
This is the great thing, because of the way that they're going now. That Forbidden Door is wide open. You can fancy book, and it might happen.
Don't forget Will Ospreay's in town too.
I was about to say, Will Ospreay's like one of my. I'm such a fan of his. I would love to see him in AEW. There are so many people, like mainstream wrestling fans, that have no idea who Will Ospreay is. Like, if you go Google his match against Ricochet, I'm lost for words. But that's the thing. This can happen. We can